Chapter 487. By how Isin was furious. He had a temper, and how could he allow Grandmaster Aoshi to humiliate him like this? Hence, he got up, dusted off his butt, turned around, and walked to another place to continue cultivating. Seeing him like this, Grandmaster Aoshi was infuriated. In the past, by how Isin's talent had been exceptional, and he had taken a liking to him at first glance. In the end, this fellow liked women and had raised his character to be lazy. He could be considered a cripple. He sighed and left. From start to finish, he didn't even glance at tranquil. By how Isin and tranquil felt quite complicated. They were also becoming stronger, but compared to Zhou Xuanji, they were simply too slow. This emperor doesn't believe it. By how Isin's eyes flickered as he glanced at tranquil and sent a message. Tranquil's expression did not change. Instead, he lightly nodded. They felt that it was useless to follow Grandmaster Aoshi. Apart from safety, they would only be bullied. In order to become stronger, they decided to leave. The world was vast, and there would naturally be opportunities that belonged to them. Zhou Xuanji found the black hole exquisite lion and thought that it would be anxious. He did not expect it to find a group of lionesses and live happily. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji had appeared, it was a little unhappy. "Master, you're back so soon," it shouted, obviously not wanting to leave. Zhou Xuanji raised his brow, took out the chicken slaying sword, and swung. The black hole exquisite lion was frightened and quickly jumped up. The lionesses beside him all fled. Seeing that the chicken slaying sword was about to reach him, the black hole exquisite lion roared. At this moment, the chicken slaying sword suddenly descended, aiming for its crotch. The black hole exquisite lion hurriedly dodged and avoided the sword. "The next strike will be even faster." Zhou Xuanji looked down at it and said. It was so scared that it hurriedly shouted, "Master, let's go back quickly. It's dangerous here." Zhou Xuanji snorted coldly and jumped onto the black hole exquisite lion's back. They rushed towards a divine cliff. Along the way, they advanced very carefully, afraid of encountering Su Qing. Ever since Zhou Xuanji told the black hole exquisite lion about the cloud devil pool, he became extremely timid and flew extremely cautiously. If he encountered Su Qing, Zhou Xuanji might be able to escape, but he could not. Fortunately, Su Qing had already gone north, so they weren't that unlucky. After returning to the divine cliff, Zhou Xuanji found the old beggar and took out the saint sword. The old beggar looked at the sacred sword Tu Gang and sighed with emotion. What a nostalgic sword. Back then, I gave it to Su Qing in hopes that he would achieve great things. I didn't expect him to go mad and monopolize the Tu Gang. Zhou Xuanji asked curiously, why did Su Qing lose control? The old beggar shook his head and did not answer. Zhou Xuanji was so angry that he snatched Tu Gang back. The old beggar became anxious and scolded. "Brat, can't you let me look at you for a while longer?" Zhou Xuanji ignored him and turned to leave, preparing to see Emperor Sword Court's people. The old beggar was not really angry, but touched his chin and thought. After that, Zhou Xuanji did not leave. In the blink of an eye, 10 years had passed. Zhou Xuanji reached 178 years old. Over the past 10 years, his celestial force had been growing, but he was still far from reaching Hunyuan heaven. It was worth mentioning that he couldn't use Tu Gang. Tu Gang contained immense power, and the sword spirit said that Zhou Xuanji had to make Tu Gang recognize him as its master before it could be controlled and modified by the sword spirit. Zhou Xuanji felt quite confused. Could it be that Tu Gang had a master? If that was the case, why did Su Qing still guard it? He should have just stored it in his body. He could not understand, so he could only put down Tu Gang and focus on cultivating. Now, he had become more powerful. He had even used 2 ancient, gazing legendary swords together, which meant that he had not used his full power yet. Over the past 10 years, he had obtained another 24 legendary swords, ranging from gold to god-slaying. During this time, 2 people from a northern wilderness ascended. They were cultivators that Zhou Xuanji did not recognize, and they had already joined the divine cliff. Time passed very slowly for Zhou Xuanji, but it passed very quickly for others. Su Qing had already left the northern wilderness, while Mo Jiuqing was still taking revenge. It was worth mentioning that Di Guanlong had fought with the great heaven god dynasty's Emperor Jundao. Because of the disparity in cultivation, Emperor Jundao suffered a crushing defeat, which angered the great heaven god dynasty. The great heaven god dynasty chased after Di Guanlong, and the great heaven god emperor attacked personally, severely injuring Di Guanlong and even imprisoning him in the great heaven god dynasty. This battle made the world realize how powerful the great heaven god emperor was. In the past, although the great heaven god dynasty was powerful, it was not high profile. Other than Emperor Jundao, there were not many people in the limelight, and the great heaven god emperor was always in closed-door cultivation. Now, the world understood that the great heaven god dynasty was even more terrifying than they had imagined, especially the great heaven god emperor. He was qualified to be the most powerful cultivator in the Center God province. Zhou Xuanji did not know about the outside world. He focused on cultivating, and his understanding of the way of the sword was also increasing. As for divine abilities, he did not fall behind. The Heavenly Saint's Tao sermon was getting closer and closer. The old beggar told him to become as powerful as possible. Zhou Xuanji guessed that there might be a fierce battle during the sermon. In an underground prison of the great heaven god dynasty, Di Guanlong, with disheveled hair and tattered clothes, was chained to the wall. His head was lowered, and his body trembled slightly, causing the metal chains to shake and ring. An old eunuch stood in front of the prison door. His skin was wrinkled, and his eyes were squinted, leaving only 2 slits. In the dark prison, he looked extremely sinister. Di Guanlong, tell us where your revered teacher is, or else we will let you experience unprecedented pain, the old eunuch said. The old eunuch opened his mouth. His voice was sharp like a rooster's. Di Guanlong looked up and spat out a mouthful of blood. The blood splattered out of the prison door, but the old eunuch dodged it easily. A mocking smile appeared in his eyes as he said, I didn't expect the great heaven god dynasty's background to be so weak. How long are you going to keep up the pretense? The old eunuch heard him and shook his head in laughter. He took out a wooden bottle, and black centipedes crawled out from it. Their shells were black and shiny, and they looked eerie. These black centipedes could fly, and they pounced toward Di Guanlong. Their numbers increased. A while later, Di Guanlong's miserable cry resounded in the prison. The old eunuch turned around. There was no smile on his face, but his expression turned even darker. When the outside world was in turmoil, the divine cliff was safe and sound. Yang Yuqian looked forward to a beautiful future. Under Zhou Xuanji's protection, the divine cliff would surely return to its peak, or even surpass it. But it was a pity that good times did not last long. Outside the vast fog, a bald man appeared on a cliff. Behind him was a dense forest, and in front of him was the divine cliff. He wore black armor, and his shoulders were connected to the tips of swords. Although his face was handsome, there was a baleful aura between his brows. I finally found it. Today, I will destroy the divine cliff, he muttered to himself. His words were filled with murderous intent, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. He walked toward the vast fog in front of him. He raised his right hand, and a golden staff appeared in his hand. Chapter 488. The bald man in black armor wielded his golden staff and swung it forward. Boom! A golden current that could be seen with the naked eye swept out, dispersing the dense fog and sweeping toward the divine cliff city. Zhou Xuanji, who was cultivating, suddenly opened his eyes and disappeared on the spot. He came to the air above the residence and spread out his arms, using heavenly law celestial energy to protect the entire residence. He saw the golden current sweeping toward him like a golden ocean, swallowing everything around it. Everything around the residence was reduced to dust. His expression greatly changed, and he instinctively looked toward the direction of the golden current. He saw a man in black armor walking over. His expression was cold as he looked down at the destroyed divine cliff city. Although the Divine Cliff City had been destroyed, not everyone had died. Many buildings were preserved by magic formations. Barriers of magic formations appeared, protecting most of the disciples. They all looked at the man in black armor in terror. Yang Yutian furiously shouted, "Bastard, state your name." He could no longer care about how powerful the other party was and directly cursed. The Divine Cliff had been low profile for so many years. Who had they offended? I'm from the great Emperor Dao Court, and my name is Prison Suppressing Vajra. I'm here to destroy the Divine Cliff. Tell Zhou Xuanji to come out and die. The man in black armor coldly harumphed. His bald head burned with a green flame, and his aura grew explosively. Great Emperor Dao Court, Prison Suppressing Vajra? Zhou Xuanji frowned. Why did the great Emperor Dao Court come again? He immediately flew out of the residence and took out the wolf ancestor soul sword as he said coldly, "Since you're here to find me, why don't we fight somewhere else?" Prison Suppressing Vajra glanced at him and said, "You overestimate yourself. Destroying the Divine Cliff is my main mission." After saying this, he raised his golden staff and prepared to attack again. Without saying anything, Zhou Xuanji swung his sword and unleashed the primordial chaos sword shadow. Countless sword shadows appeared and shot toward Prison Suppressing Vajra. Prison Suppressing Vajra casually swung his staff and destroyed the primordial chaos sword shadow. Zhou Xuanji used 10,000 ultimate steps and disappeared. Prison Suppressing Vajra's eyes narrowed, and his golden staff blocked in front of him. Clang! Zhou Xuanji was blocked by him, and a mocking smile appeared on his face. He exerted force with his right arm and sent Zhou Xuanji flying away. In the blink of an eye, Zhou Xuanji disappeared into the fog. Prison Suppressing Vajra raised his staff and laughed. "How much longer are you going to hide?" Just as his golden staff was about to fall, a rainbow light swept over and knocked his golden staff away. Prison Suppressing Vajra, this is not a place you can come to. I advise you to leave immediately. Otherwise, even if my soul is destroyed, I will kill you here. An ancient voice rang out, stunning all the survivors of the Divine Cliff. Who is this? Yang Yutian was the most astonished. Could it be that the Divine Cliff was hiding another expert? Jiang Shui and Zhou Shaoxian were worried about Zhou Xuanji. If not for Xiao Chan stopping them, they might have already chased after him. Calm down, he won't die so easily. Xiao Chan reminded the mother and daughter to maintain their rationality. The Prison Suppressing Vajra revealed a maniacal smile and said proudly, "Then you shall perish together with me." Boom! The aura that erupted from him seemed to make the sky seem shorter. All the disciples of the Divine Cliff felt suffocated by the pressure. A god statue appeared in the Divine Cliff Palace. The statue split open, and a 4- or 5-year-old boy appeared. He was wearing an adult white robe and looked neither fish nor fowl. His face was fair and clean, and he had 3 eyes. He looked at the Prison Suppressing Vajra calmly. Seeing him, the Prison Suppressing Vajra was excited immediately. He swung his golden staff and laughed wildly. "Shinyatsi, you are finally out. Today, I will kill you to prove myself." After that, he charged at the 3-eyed boy. "Shinyatsi!" Yang Yutian's expression changed drastically, and his body trembled. The 3-eyed boy was expressionless. He waved his palms, and the weather changed. A violent gale swept out. The Prison Suppressing Vajra was blocked, and the floating island and palace in the Divine Cliff were all blown away. At the same time, Zhou Xuanji held the wolf ancestor soul sword in his right hand and the furious ape sword in his left. He appeared in his residence and used heavenly law celestial power to move the entire residence. "Are you escaping?" Zhou Shaoxian came over and asked anxiously. It was her first time encountering such a powerful being. Just his aura alone made her feel that she was about to explode. Zhou Xuanji did not reply and stared at the Prison Suppressing Vajra. He owed the Divine Cliff a debt of gratitude. How could he just leave like this? He was also very shocked by the Prison Suppressing Vajra's strength. This person was not any weaker than Divine Lord Ji, and he wondered what rank this person was in the Great Emperor Dao Court. Facing the almost invincible prison-suppressing Vajra, Shunyatsi easily dealt with him. Even though his aura was not as strong as the prison-suppressing Vajra, his expression and attitude made others feel that he was superior. The old beggar suddenly appeared beside Zhou Xuanji and gritted his teeth as he said, "Let's escape first. The enemy is not just the prison-suppressing Vajra." Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji and the others' expressions greatly fell. A single prison-suppressing Vajra was already so powerful. Were there other enemies hiding in the dark? The old beggar sighed and said, "The prison-suppressing Vajra and the brilliant god Vajra have always been inseparable, and their strength is about the same." Zhou Xuanji frowned and swept out his divine sense in all directions, trying to find the brilliant god Vajra. It was a pity that he could not find the brilliant god Vajra. Seeing that Zhou Xuanji was not willing to leave, the old beggar angrily stomped his foot. Boom, boom, boom. The prison-suppressing Vajra and Shunyatsi were locked in battle, and everyone continuously retreated, distancing themselves from their battlefield. Shunyatsi, sect founder, why is he still here? Yang Yutian's eyes widened, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Didn't that mean that he had been monitored by Shunyatsi in the Cliff Lord Palace? Everything he had said and done had been seen by Shunyatsi. The more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. His hair stood on end, and he did not feel any joy at all. Shunyatsi and the prison-suppressing Vajra turned into two rays of light and shot underground. Even someone as powerful as Zhou Xuanji could not see their movements clearly. They were simply too powerful. Rumble, thunder boomed, and everyone looked up. They saw that the sky was filled with thunderclouds, and traces of golden light pierced through the clouds as a majestic might descended. Immortal god descent. Oomph. Even a scoundrel from the great Emperor Dao court dares to come out. Giant god Huang how coldly harumphed, as if he was the might of the heavens. The might of the heavens shook, looking down on all creatures. Kill, kill, kill. Countless immortal soldiers' cries sounded out, and they gathered together, sounding epic and hot-blooded. The Divine Cliff's disciples were exhilarated. Their savior was here. Humph, giant god Huang Hao, I have long wanted to fight you. A cold voice came, overshadowing the immortal soldiers' cries. It was extremely domineering. It was not the prison-suppressing Vajra. It was someone else. Brilliant god Vajra. A powerful aura came from another direction, wreaking havoc in the heavens and the earth. We're doomed. All our enemies have gathered together. The old beggar cried out and hid behind the black hole exquisite lion. Chapter 489. Hearing the black hole exquisite lion's words, the old beggar kicked out in anger. The tip of his foot struck the black hole exquisite lion's thighs, causing it to cry out in pain and quickly jump away. Zhou Xiaoxian, Xiao Chan, and Bai Suan laughed. The others looked in another direction. Rays of intense light came from the horizon, and their auras shook the sky. It was brilliant god Vajra. He was tens of thousands of meters tall and wore a set of divine armor embedded with crystals. He walked through the air, purple flames burning above his head. His expression was dignified. As soon as he appeared, giant god Huang Hao also descended from a sea of clouds. He was also 30,000 meters tall. The two peerless experts were too high to reach, approaching each other. From afar, it looked like two giant gods of creation were about to start a battle, causing the atmosphere in the heavens and earth to freeze. Boom! Prison-suppressing Vajra and Shunyatsi rushed out from underground, breaking through the billowing dust and fog. They flew into the sky to fight. The two of them fought intensely as if no one else was around. They did not care about giant god Huang Hao and brilliant god Vajra. They only wanted to kill each other. Giant god Huang Hao took out his massive halberd and attacked. Brilliant god Vajra also took out two massive axes, one red and one black, and they gave off an extremely powerful, baleful aura. They quickly clashed, and even though their bodies were massive, their attacks were still incredibly fast. Berserk gales swept out in all directions, forcing the remaining palaces and residences to continuously retreat. Yang Yuqian cried out, "Divine Cliff disciples, retreat." Now that the gods were fighting, it was best to prevent the Divine Cliff from suffering more losses. Giant God Huang Hao became more and more berserk as he fought, and even Zhou Xuanji felt quite shocked. He, who was a complete heavenly law true god, could not see through giant God Huang Hao. It seemed that it was not that the Xian court was too weak, but that giant God Huang Hao was truly powerful. Brilliant God Vajra was also very powerful. Facing the berserk giant God Huang Hao, he could receive every move. However, his aura was being suppressed, and he gradually fell into a disadvantage. Zhou Xuanji used his celestial energy to push the residences back. He looked at the old beggar and asked, "Are they all your enemies?" He was quite confused, since God Palace was also the old beggar's enemy. Why did he want him to join God Palace? The old beggar sighed and transmitted his voice. "Back then, they all wanted to take me as their master, but I looked down on them. Back then, this matter was a humiliation to them. They didn't mention it to anyone else, and no one else knew about it." Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes. He sounded like he was bragging. "Are you as strong as giant God Huang Hao?" But he didn't refute it immediately. What if it was true? He did not dwell on this matter and asked, "Who will win?" This time, the old beggar did not send a sound transmission. He replied directly, "Giant God Huang Hao and Shinyatsi will win, but these two Vajras might die." Would he die? Zhou Xuanji blinked. This didn't make sense. He was going to die right after coming out? The battle continued. Even though Zhou Xuanji and the others could not personally witness the battle, they could still hear the sounds of the battle. It was as if the heavens and earth were collapsing, and the ground continuously trembled. Dirt flowed out from the center of the battlefield, majestically and unstoppably, like a tidal wave of dirt. After an unknown period of time, the battle was over. Zhou Xuanji swept out with his divine sense, and his expression changed. Giant God Huang Hao and brilliant God Vajra landed on the ground. Brilliant God Vajra knelt in front of giant God Huang Hao. His head was severed, and he was no longer alive. Giant God Huang Hao was unscathed and still stood tall. He looked into the distance at the battlefield between Shinyatsi and prison-suppressing Vajra. A victor had been decided between the two of them. Prison-suppressing Vajra clutched his chest and coughed up blood continuously. He stared at Shinyatsi furiously and said with gritted teeth, "I didn't expect you to be so powerful." Shinyatsi was expressionless, but his right arm was severed. Blood flowed out from the third eye on his forehead. Prison-suppressing Vajra took a deep breath and turned to look at giant God Huang Hao, who was far away. Hatred filled his eyes. He and brilliant God Vajra had supported each other since they were young. Now that brilliant God Vajra died in front of him, how could he remain calm? But he was not powerful enough. He knew that he could not defeat Shinyatsi and giant God Huang Hao. If this continued, he would be the one to die. Just you wait. The great Emperor Dao Court will control the great 1,000 worlds sooner or later. One day, I will destroy the Divine Cliff and God Palace in front of you." Prison-suppressing Vajra said as he gritted his teeth. After saying this, a black hole appeared behind him, and he lightly fell backwards. Swish! The sound of the air being torn could be heard as a golden ray of light shot over and pierced through prison-suppressing Vajra's forehead. Following this, prison-suppressing Vajra fell into the black hole and disappeared. The one who had attacked was giant God Huang Hao. He appeared in front of the black hole out of thin air and stepped into it. He did not want to let prison-suppressing Vajra go. Soon, the black hole disappeared. Shinyatsi coughed up a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. He smiled bitterly and murmured, "Han Shuzi, all of you are wrong because your abilities are inferior to the heavens." As he spoke, he gradually became transparent and turned into motes of light. Elsewhere, within the residence, the old beggar sighed and said, "It's over." How troublesome. The great Emperor Dao Court's two Vajras are like pigs, coming here to die? No, at least they exhausted Shinyatsi to death. Huh. He began to laugh gloatingly. Zhou Xuanji reminded Jiang Shui and the others before flying toward the original location of the Divine Cliff to check. The Divine Cliff had been here for so many years. How could they leave? Soon, he met with Yang Yutian in the air. Looking down at the devastated land, the two were silent. Strands of mist gathered from the horizon, seeming to surround the battlefield. Yang Yutian sighed. The Divine Cliff is really full of disasters. Even a founding old ancestor died here. Although he looked solemn, he heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Fortunately, Shinyatsi was dead, or else he would not be able to continue being the Cliff Lord. Zhou Xuanji did not know what he was thinking and asked, "What should we do next? Rebuild the Divine Cliff City?" The great Emperor Dao Court's attack was a signal. Ever since the immortal gods took control of the Center God province, he had not seen Xiandaoya again. He thought that the great Emperor Dao Court had given up on him, but it seemed like that was not the case. Right? Next, I will let Wu Qiu temporarily manage the Divine Cliff and rebuild the Divine Cliff City. I will go search for powerful spirit designs. Otherwise, if something like this happens again, the Divine Cliff will not be able to afford it. With that, Yang Yutian went to look for Wu Qiu and the other disciples. Zhou Xuanji frowned slightly. Why was he so anxious? Logically speaking, after experiencing such a thing, he should first comfort his disciple for a period of time. Looking at his posture, could it be that he wanted to escape? Zhou Xuanji shook his head and stopped thinking about it. In the Divine Cliff, he didn't care who the Cliff Master was. After all, he had Emperor's Sword Court. Once he helped the Divine Cliff become stronger, he would leave with the Northern Wilderness region sooner or later. The immortal soldiers also left. As for giant God Huang Hao, he did not return. It was unknown whether he and the prison-suppressing Vajra were dead or alive. In less than 7 days, the news spread like wildfire in the Center God province. The great Emperor Dao Court had finally unveiled its mysteries in the Center God province. The origins of the brilliant God Vajra and prison-suppressing Vajra were also uncovered. All the people in the world suddenly felt that even with the protection of the Divine Palace, the Center God province might not be safe. It might even be more dangerous than before. Chapter 490. After Yang Yuqian left, the Divine Cliff started rebuilding the Divine Cliff City under Wu Qiu's obstruction. Zhou Xuanji did not participate and continued to cultivate in the air. Half a month later, the Divine Cliff City was rebuilt. However, the battle with the two guardian deities had caused the city to lose many disciples, causing the atmosphere in the Divine Cliff City to become depressed and desolate once more. Jiang Shui sent Zhou Shaoxian back to the Northern Wilderness region. This girl was very talented and had the potential to become the next Zhou Xuanji. So, they hoped that she could ascend to the upper realm so that she could enjoy the heavenly law's blessing. Moreover, the Northern Wilderness region was much safer than the Center God province. At the very least, the enemies they faced were on a completely different level. 2 months later, the old beggar came to the clouds and looked for Zhou Xuanji. The first thing he said was, "Your elder is leaving. Hurry up and kneel." Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and asked, "Where are you going?" The old beggar said arrogantly, "Go and save your senior brother." News of Di Guanlong being captured had spread like wildfire, and Zhou Xuanji had naturally heard about it as well. He had asked the old beggar if he wanted to save him, and the old beggar had said that he did not mind. "Why do you want to save him now?" "Of course, I'm just saving him in passing. I have another purpose, but I can't tell you what it is," the old beggar said proudly. After that, he waved his hand and left. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and continued cultivating. He was not worried about the old beggar. If the old beggar could die easily, he would have died long ago. Half a year later, the Divine Cliff started to recruit disciples. After the previous battle, the Divine Cliff's reputation had grown. A sect with the help of a celestial god would naturally attract many cultivators, especially giant God Huang Hao's name. In the legends of the boundless world, giant God Huang Hao is like Xingtian in Chinese legends, a war god among immortals and gods. Zhou Xuanji did not show himself, but the new disciples always loitered around his residence. It was a pity that they did not see him. On this day, the second-rank immortal medallion trembled again. Zhou Xuanji took it out, and Old Star Lord's voice came. All immortals above the 5th tier are to go to the Divine Palace and immediately put down everything you are doing. If anyone dares to be negligent, their position will be reduced. The Elder Star Lord's voice was very calm, but there was anger hidden in his tone, making the listener feel pressured. Zhou Xuanji immediately got up and flew toward the 9th heaven. They advanced forward without stopping. He came to the door of the Divine Palace. There were already many immortals gathered there, but the door was not open. The immortals and deities discussed among themselves. What is it this time? It's urgent. I heard that it has something to do with Giant God Huang Hao. The last time Giant God Huang Hao went to the Divine Cliff to fight, he never returned. How is this possible? Didn't he kill the brilliant God Vajra? Could it be that he encountered other experts from the great Emperor Dao court while chasing after the prison, suppressing Vajra? Zhou Xuanji sensed many gazes because he came from the Divine Cliff. He slightly frowned. Could it be that Giant God Huang Hao had fallen for the great Emperor Dao court's trap? Back then, he had felt that it was quite strange. Why would the great Emperor Dao court send their experts to die? A skinny man with large limbs walked over. He wore loose yellow robes and had a friendly smile on his face. He walked over to Zhou Xuanji and smiled as he said, "Sword Emperor, I finally get to meet you today. Do you know who I am?" Zhou Xuanji replied, "Barefoot Immortal." The skinny man was stunned for a moment before he laughed out loud. "You're funny. I'm Patriarch Laughing Sky. Haven't you heard of me?" The skinny man asked, blinking his eyes. "Forefather Laughing Sky, first stage great immortal of the Divine Palace." He also had a legend in the Great Thousand World. After coming to the Great Thousand World, Zhou Xuanji had seen his temple more than once. Zhou Xuanji nodded and said, "I've long since heard of old ancestor Laughing Sky. What business do you have with me?" He would respect the strong. He could sense that the Laughing Sky Patriarch was not hostile. In fact, there was admiration in his eyes. Of course, it's to befriend him. Otherwise, what else could it be? Look for trouble with you? Old ancestor Laughing Sky chuckled as he wrapped his arm around Zhou Xuanji's neck. His actions were very natural, and Zhou Xuanji did not resist. This was seen by the other immortal gods, and they began to discuss in low voices. Zhou Xuanji saw all of this, and he understood that old ancestor Laughing Sky truly wanted to befriend him. He was putting on an act for others to see in case someone came to find trouble with him. The two of them began to communicate. Most of the time, it was old ancestor Laughing Sky asking questions. After hearing about Zhou Xuanji's exact age, he was incredibly shocked. Old ancestor Laughing Sky pulled Zhou Xuanji and continuously sighed in amazement, wanting to take him as his disciple. Time passed in such a way. There was a loud bang. The God Palace's doors suddenly opened, and all of the immortal gods entered. Zhou Xuanji and old ancestor Laughing Sky did the same. He saw the Master of Gods sitting on the main seat, still sitting ramrod straight and expressionless, making it impossible to see what he was thinking. Only after all of the immortal gods were in their seats did Old Star Lord step forwards. Zhou Xuanji stood in the 4th row. There were not many first-rank immortal gods in the God Palace. There were less than 50. Some first-rank great immortals were too far away and could not come. Today, I've asked everyone to come. You might have already guessed some things. It's about Giant God Huang Hao. He's trapped in the abyss and needs the God Palace to rescue him, Old Star Lord said. Elder Star Lord said, "Usually, the Master of all gods was in charge of making decisions." Zhou Xuanji frowned. As expected, was he going to send them to rescue Giant God Huang Hao? He knew Giant God Huang Hao's strength. With his cultivation, he would only be cannon fodder. Moreover, would the great Emperor Dao court let him off? The great Emperor Dao court would most likely turn most of its attention to him. It was not just Zhou Xuanji. The other immortal gods also became restless. No one was willing to throw away their lives. This time, His Majesty wants to choose 3 first-stage great immortals to go to the rescue. Old Star Lord glanced at all the immortals and gods and said slowly. Many immortals heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. Zhou Xuanji was one of them. Right now, he only wanted to seize the time to cultivate. He did not want to go out and take risks. Is there no information about the great Emperor Dao Court that can be divulged to us? The laughing sky forefather asked. He was still smiling, as if nothing could make him nervous. Old Star Lord nodded and said, of the top 20 on the Great Emperor Steel, 5 are in the Great Emperor Dao Court. Silence. The Divine Palace suddenly fell silent. Even Zhou Xuanji's expression changed. The top 20 on the Great Emperor Steel were all first-class Great Emperors. Apart from Zhou Xuanji and Emperor Jundao, all of them had lived for more than 100,000 years. Each of them had incredible cultivation. Moreover, Elder Star Lord had only mentioned the Great Emperor Steel. Perhaps there were even stronger existences. Not becoming a martial monarch did not mean that one was weak. Many experts were still very powerful, even if they did not become martial emperors. Old Star Lord, you seem to know a lot about our Great Emperor Dao Court. A frivolous voice came into the palace, causing all the immortal gods to look over in shock. A figure giving off a terrifying demonic aura appeared in front of the gate. Chapter 491. This demon was 30 feet tall and barefooted. Black fur grew under his black chainmail. He had a demonic face and blood-red pupils. A pair of sharp horns grew out of his lush black hair. In his right hand, he held a huge saber that was 15 feet long and carried it on his shoulder. Facing all the immortals and gods in the hall, he put down the huge blade and smashed the ground. He laughed arrogantly. Today, no one should even think about saving giant God Huang Hao, because all of you will die here. The immortals were terrified. They took out their Dharma treasures and prepared to fight. This demon dared to barge into this place without anyone noticing, so its strength was not to be underestimated. Seventh on the Great Emperor Steel, Yao Shilong. Old Star Lord said with a solemn expression. The master of all gods narrowed his eyes. When the immortals heard that, they were in chaos. The top 10 existences on the Great Emperor Steel were all undying old monsters with ridiculously powerful strength. None of them were weaker than giant god Huang Hao. Yao Shilong was a great sage of the demon race in the Kiliacosm. He was transformed from an ancient cow. When he was young, his clansmen were all eaten up by dragons. He was lucky enough to escape, and from then on, he changed his name to Yao Shilong. All the dragons he encountered were eaten alive by him. In the entire vast thousand worlds, no one could compare to him in terms of eating the most dragons. Zhou Xuanji had also heard of him from the old beggar. The old beggar had wanted to take Yao Shilong as his disciple, but Yao Shilong had looked down on him. Yao Shilong was one of the few who had successfully rejected him. For example, Zhou Xuanji did not successfully reject it. Every time he mentioned Yao Shilong, the old beggar would sigh in regret. As such, Yao Shilong's name left a deep impression on Zhou Xuanji. He carefully sized up Yao Shilong. The demonic qi was indeed ridiculously strong. Boom! The gate of the Divine Palace suddenly closed. Yao Shilong grinned and said, "Are you ready? I'm going to eat you all." This sentence completely ignited the immortal's anger. This demon was completely looking down on the Divine Palace, courting death. How dare you barge into the land of immortals and gods? You must be tired of living. His Majesty is here. How dare you be so noisy? Too arrogant. The immortals cursed, but no one dared to make the first move. This scene made Zhou Xuanji speechless. The Divine Palace still lacked cohesion, especially between the immortal gods of the ancient immortal tribe and the immortal gods of the heavenly law. They were like two different factions that had never merged. The Laughing Sky Patriarch and a group of first-grade immortal gods stepped forward and walked toward Yao Shilong. They emitted their own powerful auras, causing the palace to tremble slightly. Zhou Xuanji inwardly wondered, why haven't the other immortal soldiers come in? Could it be? How long had it been since they had entered the hall to Yao Shilong's appearance? Yao Shilong sneered. The fiendish aura on his body suddenly exploded, transforming into countless black dragons that charged at all the immortals in the hall. The Grade 1 immortal gods instantly appeared in front of the black dragons and used their mystical abilities to block them. Rumble. The palace shook violently, and a strong wind and waves forced the immortals to release their immortal power to resist. The master of all gods slowly rose to his feet. His expression did not change, and he was as dignified as ever. Yao Shilong ferociously swung his saber, and saber chi swept out. Zhou Xuanji, who was in the crowd, immediately took out the wolf ancestor soul sword to block. Even so, he was still shaken by the saber chi to the point that he coughed up blood, and the immortal spirits that were weaker than him were directly turned into dust. The first stage great immortals flew into a rage. How dare you? It's infuriating. Yao Shilong, today, this old man will definitely kill you. I can't take it anymore. They all unleashed their various trump cards and divine abilities, wanting to join forces and kill Yao Shilong. Yao Shilong wildly laughed and turned into a ray of black light as he shot into the group of first-rank great immortals. Zhou Xuanji stabilized himself and gritted his teeth as he cursed. Is this a joke? The mighty god palace had been slaughtered into their headquarters by a demon, and they could not do anything about it. He could not help but look at the master of all gods. Why was this fellow not acting? What was he waiting for? The master of all gods looked at Yao Shilong and did not move. Old Star Lord was like an ant on a hot pan, his body trembling, but he did not act. Boom! Yao Shilong cut a first-rank great immortal in half with a single saber strike. He grabbed the first-rank great immortal's hand and started to chew on it, creating an incredibly cruel scene. He was incredibly fast, to the point that Zhou Xuanji could not see him with his eyes. From how he saw it, Yao Shilong was even faster than giant god Huang Hao and brilliant god Vajra. This was mainly because there were first-rank immortal gods around him. Zhou Xuanji took out his legendary swords, preparing to run at any moment. If the master of all gods did not act, what awaited him would be death. Yao Shilong ignored all of the first-rank immortal gods and slaughtered his way over. Each saber strike killed an immortal, carving out a path of blood. His demonic might was domineering. Ha ha ha. He laughed wildly, seeming extremely excited. He suddenly stopped and locked his gaze on Zhou Xuanji. His smile became strange as he savagely laughed and said, Zhou Xuanji, you are very famous in our great Emperor Dao court. You will join us sooner or later. Thank you for leading the way. After saying this, he turned and slashed out with his saber, killing dozens of immortal gods. His saber chi was incredibly powerful, causing the walls of the god palace to shatter. Zhou Xuanji frowned and inwardly cursed. This was a goddamned killing move. I'll lead the way. Fortunately, the master of all gods and Old Star Lord did not look at him. As for whether or not they were suspicious, that was another matter. Enough! The master of all gods suddenly roared and his body disappeared. In the next second, he appeared in front of Yao Shilong. In front of him, the well-built Yao Shilong seemed incredibly small. Yao Shilong looked up, and before he could react, he was hit by the master of all gods' palm. He was smashed through the ground and fell from the god palace to the 8th heaven below. The master of all gods also disappeared and chased after him. As soon as he acted, Yao Shilong immediately fell into a disadvantage. Zhou Xuanji frowned. The master of all gods was so powerful, so why did he not act before and only act after so many immortal gods had died? Hurry and run. The great Emperor Dao court is here. Old ancestor Laughing Sky suddenly sent a telepathic message to Zhou Xuanji, causing Zhou Xuanji to look at him in surprise. Old ancestor Laughing Sky's expression was serious as he looked at the god palace's gates. Before Zhou Xuanji could think too much, a hand landed on his shoulder and pulled him back. It was Old Star Lord, and a black hole flowing with violet light appeared behind Zhou Xuanji. Old Star Lord looked at Zhou Xuanji and gritted his teeth as he said, Hurry and go above the 33rd heaven and ask the heavenly saints to act." Before Zhou Xuanji could reply, he fell into the black hole. The next second, he felt the world spin. He passed through the darkness and arrived in the sky. He subconsciously swept his divine sense in all directions, but there was no trace of the divine palace. Without any hesitation, he soared into the sky and flew toward the higher heavens. Above the 33 heavens, he suddenly thought of Wang Ho. Could it be that the mighty being guarding Wang Ho's cultivation was a heavenly saint? "GGG, kid, where are you going?" An eerie laughter came from below. Zhou Xuanji looked down and saw a man with red hair dashing toward him. His skin was shriveled like a mummy's. He wore old and tattered armor, and his eyes were like snakes. He was laughing maniacally. Zhou Xuanji cursed in a low voice as the 7 emotions evil sword appeared in his left hand. Mobile version of the fastest updated website. Chapter 492. Seeing that the enemy was charging at him, Zhou Xuanji did not have the time to speak and directly activated the power of the 2 ancient gazing legendary swords. "Oh, roar!" Billions of wolf howls suddenly sounded, shaking the heavens and the earth. 2 powerful flames engulfed Zhou Xuanji's body. One was the black flame, while the other was the green netherworld flame. Without a word, Zhou Xuanji slashed with all his might. In an instant, he felt all the heavenly law immortal energy in his body being sucked away. Bang! The 2 waves of sword chi were like 2 tornadoes that twisted around each other as they charged forward. Their diameters reached tens of thousands of feet, and their momentum was so great that it seemed as if the heavens were collapsing. The red-haired man's eyes widened. Because the distance between the 2 of them was very close, he had no time to dodge and was drowned by the sword chi. He didn't even have the time to scream. The Tianxiao map supplied Zhou Xuanji with an endless supply of heavenly law celestial power. He immediately flew up in case more enemies came after him. He advanced at full speed, his expression extremely ugly. This entire time, he had thought that the Great Emperor Dao Court was an underground faction that only existed in the shadows and did not have many members. Because of their identities, they did not dare to show themselves. He had never thought that the Great Emperor Dao Court would continuously invade the Center God province. It was as if they had gone mad. Soon, he flew above the 15th level of heaven. Along the way, he saw many floating islands and palaces. He even saw someone planting flowers and plants in the courtyard. Those people were almighty figures. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to establish a clan in such a high place. Meanwhile, wherever he waved his sword, the sword chi dissipated, revealing the red-haired man's figure. At this moment, the red-haired man was incomparably miserable. His body was covered in blood, and his bones could be seen everywhere. Half of his hair had been burnt off. He looked up furiously and gnashed his teeth. "Zhou Xuanji, I will tear you into pieces." After that, he turned into a sharp sword and flew away quickly. The 2 sides began to chase each other. Zhou Xuanji continuously used 10,000 ultimate steps and continuously moved about. The heavily injured red-haired man was still chasing after him, and the distance between them was still decreasing. The 20th heaven. Boom! Zhou Xuanji forced his way through the heavenly lightning. The thunderclap soared above Zhou Xuanji's head, absorbed the heavenly lightning, and opened a path for him. The red-haired man was not so lucky. He was struck by the heavenly lightning one after another. The blood on his body seemed to flow endlessly. 21st layer of heaven, 22nd level heaven, 23rd heaven, 24 levels of heaven. Zhou Xuanji sped up with all his might. He did not dare to let his guard down. The higher they went, the stronger the heavenly lightning would be. The sky gradually darkened and was not as bright as the 9 heavens. The red-haired man's injuries became more and more serious. His heart began to pound, wondering if he should continue chasing after them. One had to know that there was a group of old monsters living in the upper heavens. At the 27th heaven, he gave up. He stopped in the air and looked at Zhou Xuanji furiously. In order to avoid alerting the powerful beings, He didn't even dare to vent out loud. Zhou Xuanji was still moving forward. With a thunderclap sword, he was fearless. Soon, he arrived above the 30th level of heaven. At this point, he suddenly felt a strong pressure, causing his speed to suddenly slow down. Even his heavenly Tao, immortal body, was affected, which showed how strong the pressure here was. Zhou Xuanji insisted. 31st layer of heaven. 32 heavens. He suddenly felt dizzy, and his body was on the verge of collapsing. He felt like he would fall at any moment. How could this be? He gritted his teeth and muttered. Going to the 33 levels of heaven was far more difficult than he had imagined. He did not give up. If the divine palace was destroyed, the divine cliff would be in danger, and the emperor's sword court would be in trouble as well. He had to find the heavenly saint quickly. However, the 33 levels of heaven were so unreachable. He looked up and saw dark clouds billowing above him. There was no lightning, as though despair was surging and no hope could be seen. At this point, his speed was already very slow. He was wobbling like a kite. His consciousness gradually fell into a daze. Why are you here?" A voice came. He thought that he was hallucinating and replied with difficulty. "Please help. The heavenly saint." Boom! He felt an intense dizziness and closed his eyes instinctively. Instinctively, he fell to the ground. He shook his head and regained his consciousness quickly. He opened his eyes and realized that he was sitting on the ground. There was a Taoist temple in front of him. It was built in a quadrangle and was surrounded by dark clouds. Looking up, there was a dazzling galaxy. The scene was extremely similar to the starry sky above the sky. But the starry sky here was even higher. A Taoist child was sweeping the ground in front of the gate of the Taoist temple. The ground was white and flawless, but he was still sweeping earnestly. Zhou Xuanji stood up and looked at the signboard of the Taoist temple. Still Thought Temple. It was an ordinary name. He walked up and asked, "Is the heavenly saint here?" The Taoist child was a little over 10 years old. His skin was fair and clean, and his cheeks were rosy. His eyes were small, and he gave off an honest vibe. He did not even look at Zhou Xuanji and replied, "The grand teacher just went down." Went down? Zhou Xuanji was stunned. Did he go to help the God Palace? He could not help but hesitate. He did not know if this was true or not. If the heavenly saint really went down, shouldn't he also return home? But what if he found out that the heavenly saint was not around after he returned? At this moment, a man ran out from Still Thought Temple. He wore a green robe, and his hair, which alternated between black and white, was coiled into a wooden hairpin. He looked like he was in his early 30s. He was extremely excited and cried out crazily, "I'm finally free! Ha ha ha!" He laughed wildly as he ran, as though he had lost his mind. He brushed past Zhou Xuanji and did not stop. Soon, he jumped into the sea of clouds and disappeared. Zhou Xuanji could not help but ask, "Who is he?" The Taoist child replied, "I think he's called Dragon Sovereign." "I'm not sure." "Dragon Sovereign?" Zhou Xuanji frowned. He had never heard of this name before. Could it be related to the dragon race? "Can I go in?" he asked. The Taoist child stopped sweeping and looked up at him. "Are you sure?" he asked with a strange expression. Zhou Xuanji frowned even deeper. The Taoist child's expression and Dragon Sovereign's behavior seemed to indicate that Still Thought Temple was not a good place. Seeing that he was deep in thought, the Taoist child continued sweeping. The heavenly Tao in the world is all about competition. The Taoist child said something out of nowhere, which made Zhou Xuanji look at him again. Zhou Xuanji took out the ancient god sword and communicated with the 9 souls. "Still Thought Temple, why are you here? Hurry up and run." Sovereign Xian cried out in shock, which sent chills down Zhou Xuanji's spine. He quickly asked in his heart, "What is Still Thought Temple?" Ghost Emperor Zhang Tian sighed. "It's a place of the heavenly law. If one carries karma and steps into it, one's soul will be destroyed, and one's body and Tao will disappear." Karma. Zhou Xuanji's heart trembled, and he took 3 steps back instinctively. No, although he had slaughtered before, he had received many blessings from the heavenly law, which was equivalent to the heavenly law's merit. Why should he be afraid? If you step into it, You'll be trapped for tens of thousands of years, even if you have no karma, Ghost Emperor Zhang Tian said again. This time, Zhou Xuanji's restless thoughts were completely dispelled. He turned around and was about to leave when a finger suddenly tapped on his forehead, freezing him in place and rendering him unable to move. Chapter 493. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide. His pupils reflected the person in front of him. It was a white-haired old man wearing a pure white robe. His face was calm, but his face was glowing with a red glow. His pupils were green. His right index finger was placed on Zhou Xuanji's forehead without moving. He seemed to be sizing Zhou Xuanji up without saying a word. Zhou Xuanji was immobilized and could not speak even if he wanted to. After a while, the white-haired old man spoke slowly. "My little friend, you are entangled with many destinies. You're not simple." Zhou Xuanji frowned. He wanted to reply, but could not. At this moment, the formless shackles on him disappeared. His body trembled and instinctively stepped back to keep a distance from the old man. "The heavenly saint you are looking for is me. I have already settled your request," the white-haired old man continued. The white-haired old man continued. With these words, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide. "Heavenly saint." The heavenly saint flipped his right hand, and a crystal ball appeared in his palm. The ball contained another world. Zhou Xuanji glanced at it and saw Yao Shilong, the red-haired man, giant god Huang Hao, the master of gods, and many other unfamiliar faces. He was greatly shocked in his heart. Could these people be captured by the heavenly saint? How could it be? What kind of technique was this? The heavenly saint stared at Zhou Xuanji and said, "Everything has its own rules. I cannot kill them for you directly, but I can give you a chance." Chance? Zhou Xuanji looked up at him and waited for him to continue. "I will suppress their cultivation to the great perfection of heavenly law, real God. I can send you in and let all of you out after 3 days. Within 3 days, all of you can settle any grudges you have in here." The heavenly saint's words changed Zhou Xuanji's expression drastically. Complete heavenly law, true God. Settle it within 3 days? His eyes were immediately filled with a terrifying murderous intent. "I agree," he said without hesitation. "Very good. Great Emperor Dao Court. Next, it's time for you to taste despair." The heavenly saint waved his left hand and sent Zhou Xuanji into the crystal ball. The next second, Zhou Xuanji came to another world. This place was like the mortal realm. Azure sea, blue sky, green mountains, and clear waters. Looking down from the sky, it was extremely beautiful. But under this magnificent beauty, there was a hidden killing intent. The master of gods, giant god Huang Hao, Yao Shilong, prison suppressing Vajra, and the others hid in various places to recuperate. They were still fearful of the heavenly sage's might. Damn it, why did the heavenly saint drag me in as well? The Lord of all gods gritted his teeth. Around him were many immortals and gods, all injured. This included the laughing sky, forefather, and the old Star Lord. From now on, God Palace shall not interfere. Leave the grievances between you and the great Emperor Dao Court to Zhou Xuanji alone. All invaders from the great Emperor Dao Court will be reduced to complete heavenly law, true God. At the same cultivation stage, you only need to deal with Zhou Xuanji alone. If the great Emperor Dao Court is completely defeated or even destroyed, the great Emperor Dao Court will not be able to enter the Center God Province for 10,000 years. If Zhou Xuanji is defeated or dies, the great Emperor Dao Court will replace the God Palace and rule over the Center God Province. No matter who violates the rules, I will represent the heavenly Dao to erase them. The heavenly saint's voice rang out. It was sacred and dignified, allowing no one to question it. As soon as he said that, everyone in the small world was moved. The immortals screamed in fear. How can they do this? Although Zhou Xuanji is very talented, Yao Shilong's ranking on the great Emperor Steel is higher than his. Whose side is the heavenly saint on? It's over. Those guys from the great Emperor Dao Court are so ridiculously powerful. The Lord of all gods, the old Star Lord, the Laughing Sky Forefather, and the other first-rank great immortals were all shocked. They were confident in Zhou Xuanji's talent, but the great Emperor Dao court was filled with devilish geniuses like Zhou Xuanji. They were dissatisfied with the heavenly saint's decision. On the other side, the great Emperor Dao court's people were exhilarated. Yao Shilong burst into laughter, which resounded across the entire small world. "Little brat, Zhou Xuanji, come out and accept your death." He was arrogant and did not take Zhou Xuanji seriously at all. Even if they were at the same cultivation stage, he was confident that he could kill Zhou Xuanji. The other powerful cultivators from the great Emperor Dao court were the same. This time, the great Emperor Dao court had a total of 6 people, and all of them were influential figures in the Great Thousand World. Boom! A horrifying aura that shook the heavens and the earth exploded, shaking the entire small world. This small world was not big, even smaller than the Northern Wilderness region. To the heavenly law, true gods, it was like squeezing into a small room. Zhou Xuanji took out all of his legendary swords and charged toward Yao Shilong while stepping on the River of Swords. His face was cold, and his eyes shone with a cold radiance. The Tai Chi diagram with 9 swords appeared on his forehead, and strands of heavenly lightning surrounded his body. The Wolf Ancestor Soul Sword and the 7 Emotions Evil Sword were in his hands. He flew across the sky swiftly and soon saw Yao Shilong. He did not waste any time and activated Sword Sect Immortal Cry straight away. Over 300 legendary swords spiraled at high speed, and all of them glowed with a dazzling silver radiance. Yao Shilong took up his gigantic saber and slashed at the ground. The saber chi broke the ground and swept toward Zhou Xuanji with an unstoppable momentum. Zhou Xuanji's black hair danced wildly. The 9 sword souls behind his back shot out and dispersed the saber chi forcefully before crashing into Yao Shilong. Yao Shilong underestimated Zhou Xuanji and was sent flying backward while vomiting blood. Zhou Xuanji followed up with a cold voice. "You worms from the great Emperor Dao court, don't even think about living. I can't defeat you at the same cultivation stage." Tianxia Map, World Buddha Art, Heavenly Law Great Emperor, Heavenly Law Immortal Constitution, Sword Soul, Violet Demon Monarch Heart. Over 300 legendary swords. With so many great serendipity on him, what did he have to fear? Zhou Xuanji dashed toward Yao Shilong while sticking close to the ground. Yao Shilong steadied himself. Seeing Zhou Xuanji charging at him, he roared. Demonic chi emanated from his body, and his physique expanded a few times. He swung his saber wildly at Zhou Xuanji, and the saber chi rained down like a violent storm. Zhou Xuanji did not dodge at all. He activated the dual sword mode with his sword will, and his speed was no slower than Yao Shilong's. Clang, clang, ding, ding, clang. The saber and sword clashed. Both of their auras reached their pinnacle, and the horrifying pressure crumbled the ground. Far away, the other 5 powerful cultivators from the great Emperor Dao court gathered. When they witnessed the battle, they were all dumbfounded. How can it be? Is Zhou Xuanji so powerful? This brat's power is comparable to universe heaven, but his opponent is Yao Shilong. Should we attack together? Let's go. Prison suppressing Vajra, the red-haired man, and the other 3 powerful cultivators quickly reached an agreement and charged at Zhou Xuanji together. If all 6 of them were defeated by Zhou Xuanji, it would be a real joke. Zhou Xuanji ignored the other 5 and stared fixedly at Yao Shilong, suppressing him. Over 300 legendary swords pierced toward Yao Shilong wildly, and Yao Shilong was at a disadvantage. Damn, why is it like this? Yao Shilong roared in his heart. His blood-red eyes glowed with a blood-red radiance. Chapter 494. Boom, boom, boom. The 9 sword souls slashed at Yao Shilong relentlessly, causing him to vomit blood continuously. Although his cultivation stage was suppressed, his body was still powerful enough to withstand Zhou Xuanji's frenzied attacks. As for the other 5 cultivators from the great Emperor Dao court, they were blocked by over 300 legendary swords and could not get close to Zhou Xuanji at all. Their divine abilities were the same. What? Aren't you arrogant? Is that all you can do? Zhou Xuanji mocked as he attacked. He had always been angry at the great Emperor Dao court. They had been targeting him since he was born. No matter where he went, they would always try to scheme against him. Even a powerful god palace was implicated. The more he thought about it, the more furious he became. His face turned hideous. Strands of demonic qi seeped out from the 7 emotions evil sword, which turned Zhou Xuanji's aura evil. Rage made him more powerful. Yao Shilong was furious too. His rage was even stronger than Zhou Xuanji's. After all, Zhou Xuanji was venting his anger while he was being beaten. His pride and dignity were being trampled on, which made him feel extremely uncomfortable. He swung his saber and wanted to push Zhou Xuanji back, but he could not. Zhou Xuanji's sword qi was too powerful. His saber qi could not suppress it at all. He did not understand. Why was Zhou Xuanji so much more powerful than him? He was also a first-class great arch, a peerless prodigy who had shocked the world. My body seems to be restricted to the heavenly law, true God stage. Damn heavenly saint. Yao Shilong roared furiously in his heart. He had overlooked something. His body was still more powerful than when he was at complete heavenly law, true God. Boom! Prison suppressing Vajra grew to a height of 30,000 meters. He dashed toward Zhou Xuanji furiously, treading on mountains and rivers. No matter how the legendary swords pierced into his body, he did not stop but continued to charge forward. He was about to step on Zhou Xuanji. Roar! Zhou Xuanji turned into a 5-clawed golden dragon. His body expanded rapidly and flew up. With an unstoppable momentum, he crashed into prison-suppressing Vajra. This time, prison-suppressing Vajra did not stand tall like he did at the Divine Cliff. The 5-clawed golden dragon threw him to the ground and opened its mouth. Countless beams of sword qi shot out from the dragon's mouth and rushed toward the prison-suppressing Vajra's face, causing him to roar in pain. An evil-looking man with a cat-like face leaped up, holding an iron hammer in his hand. The head of the hammer rapidly expanded, becoming as big as a mountain. He held the hammer in his hand and smashed it towards the 5-clawed golden dragon. The 5-clawed golden dragon's body shook and turned back into Zhou Xuanji, causing the hammer to miss and instead smash in a prison-suppressing Vajra's leg. "You're big!" Prison-suppressing Vajra cursed in pain. Before he could finish speaking, Zhou Xuanji rushed over with 2 ancient, gazing legendary swords in his hands and stabbed them into his throat. Zhou Xuanji then used 9 Hell Flame Extinction. The intense flames engulfed the prison-suppressing Vajra, and the cat-faced man quickly retreated in fear. "Ah!" the prison-suppressing Vajra screamed. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. How painful it was to be burned by the raging flames. Zhou Xuanji stood on the prison-suppressing Vajra's massive body and looked at the other 5 experts in the distance. As the prison-suppressing Vajra screamed, Zhou Xuanji spoke slowly. "Are you afraid?" His voice was cold and soft, but it sounded like a dagger tearing apart the prison-suppressing Vajra's cries. His voice traveled into the ears of every enemy. Yao Shilong gnashed his teeth and looked at him furiously. The other 4 were the same. Before they joined the great Emperor Dao court, they were the rulers of a region and were unparalleled. In the end, they were suppressed by Zhou Xuanji. The great Emperor Dao court had been paying attention to Zhou Xuanji. They knew Zhou Xuanji's background. A kid who was not even 200 years old could suppress them. This was the greatest insult to them. At this moment, they could no longer care about Xian Daoya's request. They only wanted to kill this kid. Not long after, the prison-suppressing Vajra fell. He was burned alive by the 9 Hell Flame Extinction and turned into ashes. "My divine ability is powerful, right?" Lu Wuji laughed proudly in Zhou Xuanji's mind. The souls of the other almighty beings all praised him. Zhou Xuanji walked toward the other 5 with his sword. No matter how powerful they were, Zhou Xuanji would kill them all within these 3 days. This was a declaration of war against the great Emperor Dao court. Now that things had come to this, how could they stop and make peace? Zhou Xuanji's murderous intent grew. He flew up slowly, and sword sect Immortal Weep was still in effect. Yao Shilong spat out a mouthful of blood and charged toward Zhou Xuanji. The 4 powerful cultivators flew alongside him. 5 powerful auras swept across the heavens and earth. On the other side of the small world, the Master of God said with a complicated expression, "Prison-suppressing Vajra was killed by Zhou Xuanji." With this, the surrounding immortal gods were all shocked. The first-rank great immortals' expressions were similar to the Master of Gods. They knew that Zhou Xuanji was very talented, but the enemies were not any weaker than him. Zhou Xuanji could kill 1 enemy in such a short time despite fighting against 6 alone. Zhou Xuanji is so powerful, I see. No wonder the great Emperor Dao court wants him so desperately. If Zhou Xuanji wins, the great Emperor Dao court will not be able to enter the Center God province for 10,000 years. 10,000 years later, can he become the most powerful cultivator in the God Palace? Yes, he can. He's too powerful. With such talent, he should be ranked first on the great Emperor's steel. Don't spout nonsense. The immortal gods discussed among themselves excitedly. The great Emperor Dao court charged into the God Palace with such arrogance. They could not swallow this humiliation. Giant God Huang Hao sat on a hill to recuperate. He did not open his eyes, but his eyelids were trembling slightly. He was captured by Yao Shilong and the other 5. He did not expect Zhou Xuanji to be killing them. He felt complicated. He was not happy at all. Instead, he felt indignant. He should not be sitting here to recuperate, but to fight the great Emperor Dao court personally. Boom! The red-haired man was stomped onto the ground by Zhou Xuanji. Blood flowed out from his mouth uncontrollably. He looked up at Zhou Xuanji with a venomous expression. Previously, he looked up at Zhou Xuanji, but that was because he was pursuing Zhou Xuanji. Now, he was being stepped on by Zhou Xuanji and could not retaliate at all. His divine abilities were like punching a wall against the surging sword chi. There was no effect, and he injured himself instead. Zhou Xuanji looked at him condescendingly and said, very indignant, "Boom!" The thunderclap sword shot out brilliant heavenly lightning that struck them. Zhou Xuanji was not affected, but the red-haired man was suffering. He tried his best not to scream, but he could not stand up no matter what. As for Yao Shilong and the other 3, they were blocked by sword sect Immortal Ghost Weep and could not get close. They could only watch as Zhou Xuanji tortured the red-haired man. Zhou Xuanji. Yao Shilong fell into a frenzy and roared continuously. Zhou Xuanji looked at him with disdain and said, "Other than being like a mad dog, what else can you do?" The World Fool sword was working, and Yao Shilong was so angry that every pore on his body was bleeding. Zhou Xuanji, the great Emperor Dao court did not want to kill you. You will join us sooner or later. If you really want to fight to the death, you are foolish. An old man with a pockmarked face cursed with gritted teeth. He looked exasperated at Zhou Xuanji. Chapter 495. Oh, if I join the great Emperor Dao court, what will happen? Zhou Xuanji asked with a cold smile. His expression was still hideous. His eyes were already red with bloodlust. The pockmarked old man replied, "You will be like us. You will have a place in the great Emperor Dao court and enjoy all the resources in the great Emperor Dao court." Zhou Xuanji smiled faintly and asked, "What resources does the great Emperor Dao court have?" The pockmarked old man was enraged again and said, "If you surrender and claim that you lost to Swoosh, the 9-flame Chimera demon sword came with a void instant slash." The pockmarked old man tilted his head instinctively. Pshhhh. Zhou Xuanji used 10,000 ultimate steps and pierced his sword into his chest, forcing him to quickly fly backwards. At the same time, the sword in his left hand pierced into the cat-faced man's chest. Both of them flew toward the horizon. Yao Shilong stared at the red-haired man and cursed. "Trash. Hurry up and stand up." After that, He chased after Zhou Xuanji. Above the 33rd heaven, Still Thought Temple, the heavenly saint sat on the stairs in front of the gate. His eyes were fixed on the crystal ball in his hand. Behind him, the boy who was sweeping the floor bent over and observed the battle curiously. Grand Teacher, is Zhou Xuanji the child of destiny that you are looking for? The boy asked. His eyes were filled with confusion. The heavenly saint replied calmly. He can only be considered a reserve. If he can pass this stage, he will be qualified to be the child of destiny. The boy shook his head and continued to sweep the floor. The heavenly saint did not blink, but continued to observe the battle. An hour later, the red-haired man knelt before Zhou Xuanji and grabbed his clothes with his right hand. He panted heavily and did not even have the strength to stand up. Zhou Xuanji looked down at him expressionlessly. You can't do it anymore. The red-haired man heard him and could no longer refute. He could only feel that he would faint at any moment. Far away, the other four did not attack Zhou Xuanji anymore. They were at the end of their strength and were trying to recover their magic energy. They did not believe that Zhou Xuanji's magic energy was limitless. Seeing that the red-haired man did not even have the energy to speak, Zhou Xuanji smiled and pierced the bloodbath sword into his body, letting him enjoy the despair of death. The red-haired man's blood was absorbed by the bloodbath sword, but he could not feel it. Only endless exhaustion came to him. In the end, he was dead too. The soul was absorbed by the ghost Emperor Extreme Abyss. Zhou Xuanji walked toward the other four with his sword. The next person was the cat-faced man. Before he could even say his name, he was turned into ashes by the primordial chaos sword shadow, and his soul was also taken away by the ghost Emperor Extreme Abyss. Before he died, he was just like the red-haired man. He no longer had any combat power. Zhou Xuanji purposely exhausted them so that they would be completely exhausted before killing them slowly. In any case, he had 3 days. There was no hurry. The pockmarked old man also followed in his footsteps. 1 day later, the great Emperor Dao court only had Yao Shilong left alive. The outcome was clear. Zhou Xuanji won, but time was not up yet. Yao Shilong was getting closer and closer to death. Boom! Yao Shilong fell to the ground and lay in the ruins. The huge saber in his hand had slipped out. He opened his eyes with great difficulty. Zhou Xuanji suddenly descended and stepped on his chest, causing his face to twist. You are indeed very strong and very arrogant. Before you die, do you have anything to say? Zhou Xuanji looked down at him and asked. After oppressing his enemies for a day, he was tired of it. Yao Shilong stared at him furiously and said with gritted teeth, "Make it quick." Zhou Xuanji heard him and slashed at him decisively. Sword Soul, Yao Shilong died. The great Emperor Dao court is not allowed to enter the Center God province for 10,000 years. Deities, return to the palace. The heavenly saint's voice came. Everyone felt a force enveloping them. The next second, the world spun around them, and they were teleported out of the small world. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes again and found himself in Still Thought Temple. His expression changed slightly. Why was he still here? He tilted his head and saw the heavenly saint and the boy sweeping the floor, looking at him calmly. This scene was extremely weird, and it sent chills down his spine. Don't be nervous. I will not harm you, the heavenly saint said. Zhou Xuanji complained to his heart. Then why don't you let me leave? Do you want to break through to universe heaven? The heavenly saint asked, and Zhou Xuanji fell into silence. After a moment of hesitation, he asked, "What do I need to pay?" The heavenly saint shook his head and said, "If you can calm your heart completely before Still Thought Temple, I will teach you this technique." After that, he turned around and was about to enter Still Thought Temple. Calm my heart completely? Zhou Xuanji had an idea. He took out the dumb sword and placed it against his forehead. After that, his expression became sluggish, and he seemed to have lost his mind. "Grand Teacher!" The boy sweeping the floor cried out in shock and asked the heavenly saint to turn around. Seeing Zhou Xuanji's condition, the heavenly saint's expression turned strange. In the Center God province, the Master of God's voice resounded across the world. The great Emperor Dao court is heartless and wants to massacre the center god province. Fortunately, the heavenly saint intervened and sent them and Zhou Xuanji into a small world for a duel. Zhou Xuanji killed prison-suppressing Vajra, Yao Shilong, evil cat wolf lord, evil ghost earth ancestor, blood tear man, and Qian Kuan gang. The great Emperor Dao court is not allowed to enter the center god province for 10,000 years. As the master of gods, I represent the heavenly law to confer Zhou Xuanji the title of first-class giant god, God Palace's war god, and all beings respect him. The master of God's voice was so majestic that everyone was shocked. Prison-suppressing Vajra, Yao Shilong, evil cat wolf lord, blood tear man, and Qian Kuan gang. They were all famous existences. At the same time, Yao Shilong and evil cat wolf lord's names disappeared from the great Emperor's steel, and the names below them rose by 1 or 2 ranks. All living beings in the world began to talk about Zhou Xuanji. How powerful was he? Bai Hao Yisin and Feng Kuel sat in the forest. Their expressions were dull, and they could not believe their ears. Zhou Xuanji again. How long had it been? He had done another earth-shattering thing, and he had even become a first-grade giant god of the divine palace. What stage is he at now? Bai Hao Yisin mumbled to himself. He was in a daze. The harder he tried to catch up to Zhou Xuanji, the faster Zhou Xuanji grew. This feeling of not being able to catch up to his target was unbearable. Feng Kuel's emotions were incredibly complicated. Once he was so close to Zhou Xuanji. If he had been more determined back then, would he have been able to ascend to the heavens? In a bustling city, an old beggar was eating and drinking in an inn with a complicated expression. The customers around him were discussing Zhou Xuanji excitedly. He seemed to be in another world and did not fit in. He sighed. He did not expect Yao Shilong to die at Zhou Xuanji's hands. Although he did not understand what had happened, he felt like he had been slapped in the face. Because he often mentioned Yao Shilong to Zhou Xuanji. He said that if Zhou Xuanji could have Yao Shilong's luck, he would do something like that. And now, Yao Shilong was killed by Zhou Xuanji. Chapter 496. Still Thought Temple. The heavenly saint looked at Zhou Xuanji, who had turned into a fool, with a peculiar expression. He walked up to Zhou Xuanji and waved his hand. Zhou Xuanji ignored him. His eyes were dull, and his mouth opened unconsciously. His saliva was about to drip out. The sweeping boy asked, "Does becoming an idiot count as complete peace?" He's not thinking about anything. The heavenly saint was silent. Zhou Xuanji's move caught him off guard. This didn't play by the rules. Moreover, this sword looked very ordinary. Tian Sheng took the dumb sword and began to observe it. After losing the dumb sword, Zhou Xuanji gradually regained consciousness. Very quickly, he discovered that the dumb sword was in the hands of the heavenly saint, and he quickly snatched it away. As a heavenly saint, you still want to snatch the sword? Zhou Xuanji suppressed his anger and asked with a deep voice. The heavenly saint was stunned and could not help but laugh. He shook his head and said, "You are very good at playing tricks. Come with me." With that, he walked through the door. Zhou Xuanji thought for a while and decided to follow. Now that things had come to this, if he still refused, he would probably anger the heavenly saint. Just like that, he followed the heavenly sage in his Still Thought Temple. Once he entered Still Thought Temple, Zhou Xuanji sensed that the space inside was larger than it looked from the outside. The fragrance of sandalwood filled the air, making people feel relaxed and happy. Along the way, he saw some humans and demons meditating and cultivating. They did not communicate, and even when Zhou Xuanji and the heavenly saint passed by, they did not open their eyes. Soon, he saw a familiar face. Nobles. Zhou Xuanji walked up and said, "Marquis, long time no see." Hearing this, Wang Ho opened his eyes in confusion. Seeing Zhou Xuanji, he opened his eyes wide and cried out, "How did you?" In the next second, he shut his mouth, afraid that he would disturb the other powerful beings around him. He got up and grabbed Zhou Xuanji as he asked in a low voice, "Didn't you just ascend? How did you get here?" The consciousness he sent into the heavenly law puppet could communicate with him. How long had it been since Zhou Xuanji ascended? He had been cultivating in the still thought temple for tens of thousands of years and did not know what had happened in the boundless universe. In still thought temple, there were also old, undying beings who had meditated for hundreds of thousands of years. He was considered young, but compared to Zhou Xuanji, he really could not figure out. Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" Wang He was confused and didn't know what to say. "Little friend, come here quickly." The heavenly saint's voice came, and Zhou Xuanji could only follow. "Little friend?" Wang He's expression became even more conflicted. His heart was filled with curiosity, as if it was being scratched by a cat. He suddenly thought of something. My meditative state." He held his head with both hands and cried out in his heart. Then he sat on the ground in despair. He had meditated for 10,000 years and almost fulfilled the heavenly saint's request, but he was interrupted by Zhou Xuanji. "Do I have to start all over again?" Zhou Xuanji did not know about Marquis's mental breakdown. He continued to move forward while looking around. Soon, they walked into a large hall. There was nothing in the hall, only an empty space. The heavenly saint turned around and looked at Zhou Xuanji calmly. Zhou Xuanji waited for him to speak. The heavenly saint said, "In another 20 years or so, I will open a dojo in the 9th layer of heaven. Originally, I wanted everyone to be inspired and pursue the great path together. Your master wants you to participate, right?" Zhou Xuanji asked curiously. "You know that old man?" In his eyes, the heavenly saints were already the most powerful beings. He had toyed with the great Emperor Dao court in the palm of his hand, almost omnipotent. "Not only him, you also know an old immortal, right?" The heavenly saint continued to ask. Zhou Xuanji was not shocked, but became even more curious about their relationship. The heavenly saint did not explain, but asked, "How many heavenly saints do you think there are in the great thousand world?" "How many heavenly saints?" Zhou Xuanji frowned and said, "You mean there's more than one heavenly saint?" He felt uneasy when he thought about how there were others who were as powerful as the heavenly saints. Could there be one in the great Emperor Dao court too? If not, why would the heavenly saint only banish them and restrict them to 10,000 years? There are conflicts between the heavenly saints too. My title is Sage Dao Jing. I hope that you can become powerful enough to fight for me and fight for the heavenly law vitality. Sage Dao Jing. It was the first time Zhou Xuanji heard of this title, but the last sentence shocked him. Heavenly law vitality? He remembered that the sword spirit said that the supreme legendary sword system was formed from the serendipity of the world. What was the relationship between the serendipity of the world and the heavenly law vitality? The confusion in his heart grew. "Sit down. I will explain the Tao to you personally. Let's see how much you can understand. During my explanation, you can start cultivating." After Sage Dao Jing spoke, he sat down. Zhou Xuanji asked hesitantly, "How long will it take? Can I go back and take a look?" Sage Dao Jing said, "It might take a long time, but it will definitely be within 10,000 years. I will not let the great Emperor Dao court enter the Center God province. Cultivate on your own. Your family has their own serendipity. You cannot let them rely on you forever." Zhou Xuanji was convinced and sat down as well. It was the first time he heard a powerhouse explain the Tao to him. He heard from the old beggar that if an ancient powerhouse could explain the Tao to him while he was cultivating, he would soar into the sky. Back then, he even asked the old beggar to explain the Tao to him. But the old beggar was too lazy and refused. A powerhouse's explanation could take anywhere from a few decades to tens of thousands of years. Spring and autumn in their eyes was like a second in the eyes of mortals. Zhou Xuanji glanced at Sage Dao Jing before activating the World Buddha art and continued to cultivate. "Before we begin, get rid of the evil qi in your body," Sage Dao Jing said with a smile. He waved his right hand, and an eyeball flew out from Zhou Xuanji's body. It flew out quickly and disappeared. It was the eyeball that Zhou Xuanji got from the Nether Demon Stream. Evil qi? Zhou Xuanji was shocked in his heart. Could this thing be dangerous? He did not ask further and continued to cultivate. The beginning of all things is also the beginning of the world. First came the heavenly law, and then the world. Throughout the ages, the Tao has been passed down, sage Dao Jing said. His voice was light, but had an indescribable vicissitude to it, which made Zhou Xuanji feel as though he was in the vast world. When a mayfly looked down at the world, it would only feel how small it was. When an ant looked up at the world, it would only feel how small it was. The world was the largest, and so was the heavenly law. Zhou Xuanji thought about his power of the world and the heavenly law's celestial power and quickly entered a state of enlightenment. The heavenly saint's eyes flashed with astonishment. What a high level of comprehension! Thunderclouds covered the world. A vast ocean was surging with huge waves. Xiande knelt by the shore and worshipped the boundless ocean. So, Yao Shilong and the others are dead? An indifferent and hoarse voice came from the ocean and asked faintly. Xiande lowered his head and replied, "Yes. Zhou Xuanji has been chosen by sage Dao Jing. Within 10,000 years, we cannot touch him. After 10,000 years, he might already have the power to threaten us." He sounded a little unwilling. In his eyes, Zhou Xuanji was completely created by him. How could he be willing to be caught off guard by the chess piece he created? Chapter 497. You think too highly of Zhou Xuanji, just because you created him? The emotionless voice sounded again, and Xianduya lowered his head, not daring to refute. But in his heart, Zhou Xuanji's talent was indeed unparalleled. After all, Yao Shilong, prison-suppressing Vajra, and the other prodigies were no match for him at the same cultivation level. In Xianduya's knowledge, no one else could be so monstrous. Next, don't bother about Zhou Xuanji anymore. Don't go to the Center God province anymore. Go to other provinces in the Great Thousand World. There's someone I need you to find. An indifferent voice sounded, and Xianduya could only bow and leave. After turning around, his face became gloomy. He really couldn't restrain himself. He had worked so hard for the great Emperor Dao Court, but in the end, all he received was endless criticism. The great Emperor Dao Court had never helped him recover his body, causing him to live in eternal pain. Very good. Just you wait. Xianduya's eyes flickered as he thought. After the great Emperor Dao Court was expelled, the Center God province regained its peace. Zhou Xuanji became a legendary figure, and the divine cliff grew stronger. What was worth mentioning was that after Yang Yutian returned, he seemed to have changed into a different person. He usually did not smile, and his management of the divine cliff became swift and fierce. The old disciples who made mistakes would also be severely punished, causing the entire divine cliff to be on edge, afraid that they would make a mistake. He directly gave the northern wilderness region's teleportation door to Jiang Shui and let her manage it. The experts from Emperor's Sword Court were responsible for guarding it. Zhou Xuanji had not returned, but Jiang Shui was not worried. Old Star Lord had come to find her and told her about Zhou Xuanji's situation, and he had asked Yang Yutian to protect the people around Zhou Xuanji. Now, Zhou Xuanji was not only the divine cliff, but also the god palace. In the duel in the heavenly saint small world, the immortal gods had already been convinced by Zhou Xuanji. They believed that Zhou Xuanji could become a giant in the world. Different stories continued to appear in the Center God province, while Zhou Xuanji was cultivating in Still Thought Temple. Spring passed and autumn came. In the blink of an eye, he was already 200 years old. Sword owner has reached 200 years old. Gotcha started. Ding. Congratulations. The sword owner has obtained Armageddon, heaven-encompassing star sword, disaster release, 9-moon execution sword. The sword spirit's voice resounded in Zhou Xuanji's mind, and he opened his eyes in shock. Disaster releasing divine sword. Over the years, he had already obtained 29 divine swords. His luck had been very bad, and the highest he had obtained was only at the level of Godslayer. He did not expect to obtain a disaster-releasing divine sword on his 200th birthday. Information about the two swords appeared before his eyes. Sword name: Sky Encompassing Star Sword Grade. Armageddon description, able to blot out the sky and cover the sun, gathering the power of the stars to suppress and kill enemies. The more stars there are, the stronger the power. Sword name, 9 Moon Execution Sword of Destruction level, disaster relief description. Formed by the condensation of 9 divine moons, it can release the power of the 9 divine moons, reverse yin and yang, and break through the 5 elements. One must be at least at Universe Heaven Realm Level 1 to use it. Universe Heaven Level 1? Zhou Xuanji inwardly sighed. Even though his cultivation had greatly improved under Sage Daojing's teachings, he was still a long way from Universe Heaven. What are you thinking? Both happy and sad. Sage Daojing opened his eyes and asked. He was more and more satisfied with Zhou Xuanji. There was a high chance that this child would become his chosen one. Zhou Xuanji shook his head and changed the topic. Aren't you going to open a dojo? Can I bring my people to listen? Sage Daojing smiled and said, Sure, I will give you 10 spots. As for the others, if they can ascend to the 9th heaven, they can come as well. It was not easy to ascend to the 9th heaven. One had to be at least Heavenly Revolution Golden Immortal. When are you going to start? Zhou Xuanji asked. Sage Daojing's Dao techniques were vast and profound. Just a casual lecture from him benefited him greatly, so he respected Sage Daojing a lot. A month later, the dojo has already been built in the 9th heaven. Go back and prepare. Sage Daojing waved his right hand and sent Zhou Xuanji back to the Divine Cliff's residence. Zhou Xuanji felt his vision blur, and he found himself in a courtyard. He sighed in amazement at how awesome the Heavenly Saint's power was. He quickly found Jiang Shui and discussed this with her. Apart from Zhou Xuanji, no one else in Emperor's Sword Court had reached Heavenly Revolution Golden Immortal, so he could only rely on his spots. After some discussion, they chose Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Songjian, Beixiao Wangjian, Huang Lianxin, Han Xinbua, Chen Bantian, Meng Tianlang, Ning Zifeng, and Lin Changge. Including Jiang Shui, there were 10. As for Zhou Xiaoxian, the little black snake, and the others, they could not support Emperor's Sword Court in the future. Moreover, after Xiao Jinghong and the others finished listening to the Tao, they could preach to Emperor's Sword Court. The two quickly returned to the northern wilderness region Skyfall and told everyone about this. What about me? The little black snake cried out. Zhou Xiaoxian stepped on its tail and snorted. You are too weak. Even I am not qualified, and you are? The others burst out laughing. No one objected to Zhou Xuanji's decision. Those who were chosen began to look forward to the Heavenly Saint's preaching. Zhou Xuanji came to the foot of the mountain. The Heavenly Hall's second-class Great Emperor, Xianyuan Shenhao, and Thunder Demon Sovereign Zhang Quanglan were already familiar with each other. The two chopped firewood every day and talked about life. Seeing Zhou Xuanji, the two were not too excited. From today onwards, you are free. Xianyuan Shenhao, if you are not willing to join Emperor's Sword Court, I can send you back to the upper realm. But you'll have to find your own way back to the Heavenly Hall. Zhou Xuanji said straightforwardly. The two were still not surprised. Zhang Quanglan said with a smile, I will stay in Emperor's Sword Court, but can I be promoted? Zhou Xuanji nodded. Me too, Xianyuan Shenhao said with a low voice. It had been so many years, but the Heavenly Hall did not come to save him. He had already given up. Zhou Xuanji smiled in satisfaction. Zhang Quanglan could stay in Skyfall. As for Xianyuan Shenhao, Zhou Xuanji would bring him to the Divine Cliff. This brat was a second-class Great Emperor after all. It would be a waste of his talent to stay in the mortal realm. Half a month later, Zhou Xuanji brought the 10 people from Emperor's Sword Court to the 9th heaven. Once they arrived, they saw many people flying past. On the right was the God Palace, and on the left was the Preaching Hall. The Preaching Hall was obviously a tall golden tower. A spiral staircase coiled around the golden tower and extended all the way to the top. The golden tower was at least 10,000 meters tall. Hundreds of thousands of people were sitting on it. Other than that, many people were chatting above the sea of clouds. Zhou Xuanji quickly caught sight of a boy sweeping the ground. The boy was standing before the golden tower. Anyone who wanted to enter the tower had to pass through him. If anyone trespassed, he would teleport them out immediately. What's this boy's cultivation? Zhou Xuanji was curious in his heart. To be able to sweep the ground in Still Thought Temple, he must not be simple. Behind him, Xiao Jinghong, Lin Chang'e, and the others were amazed. It was their first time coming to the ninth heaven. They were very excited to see so many powerful cultivators. Zhou Xuanji brought them and flew toward the boy sweeping the ground. Mobile version of the fastest updated website, M. Chapter 498. Soon, Zhou Xuanji brought Jiang Shui and the others to the sweeping boy. The sweeping boy nodded and said, "You are here. Look down from the top. There are 11 seats on the 3rd level. You can let your people sit there with you." "Thank you," Zhou Xuanji replied. It was so convenient to know someone. He did not even have to report his name, and there were seats available. The group flew toward the top of the Golden Tower. Along the way, Zhou Xuanji saw some disciples from the Divine Cliff. There were many golden immortals in the Divine Cliff, so it was not strange for them to come to the 9th heaven to listen to the Tao. "Master is so influential," Chen Bantian said excitedly. He looked around and felt that everything was new. Zhou Xuanji said to Jiang Shui, "Be more serious this time. If you perform well, I will recommend you to Still Thought Temple." In Still Thought Temple, many powerhouses were cultivating and listening to Sage Daojing's preaching. There must not be any conflict, or one would be chased out. Jiang Shui nodded. She understood that this was a great serendipity. In the entire Great Thousand World, such serendipity was rare. "Do we have a chance?" Zhao Tsongjian asked. Zhou Xuanji rolled his eyes at him and said, "Are you all my wives?" Beixiao Wangjian chuckled. "If you don't mind, I'm willing to give myself to you." Zhou Xuanji heard him and punched him. The pain almost made him cry. The others burst out laughing. Before the Tao preaching began, the Golden Tower Dojo was very noisy. They did not have to lower their voices. After Zhou Xuanji sat down, he began preaching to Jiang Shui and the others telepathically. Sage Daojing had preached to him for more than 20 years after all, so he had some understanding of Sage Daojing's Tao. After that, more and more living beings rushed up to the 9th heaven. The golden tower that Zhou Xuanji was in was soon filled. The sweeping boy waved his right hand, and another golden tower rose up, which made the other living beings excited. "What's this guy's cultivation stage?" "Presumptuous. You should call him senior. He only looks young. To be able to represent the heavenly saint, he must be ridiculously powerful. So powerful, I can't sense any ripples from his magic energy. When will the Tao preaching begin?" Everyone discussed among themselves. Those who could come to the 9th heaven were at least First Revolution Golden Immortals. There were also powerhouses who wanted to bring their juniors over, but they were isolated by a mysterious force beneath the 9 heavens. Millions of Heavenly Revolution Golden Immortals, Void Extreme Immortals, and Heavenly Law True Gods. Sage Yutian, Xianyuan Zungong, Yang Yutian, and Tang Juetian also came. The Heavenly Saints lecture attracted all the experts of the Center God province. Even the Great Heaven God dynasty's Great Heaven God Emperor had come. The Great Heaven Divine Emperor sat on the dragon chariot, which was pulled by 4 dragons of different colors. His arrival attracted millions of gazes. Zhou Xuanji did not pay attention to the outside world. He was focused on teaching Jiang Shui and the others. This lecture would be the grandest gathering in the history of the Center God province. When the time for the lecture arrived, a vast pressure descended. The 2 golden towers instantly quietened down. It was the same for the creatures floating above the sea of clouds. Everyone looked up and saw Sage Daojing suddenly appear at the top of Zhou Xuanji's golden tower. He sat down slowly. "I am Venerable Daojing, and I have become a heavenly saint. I wish to lead all living beings in the Center God province to pursue the great Tao together. During this lecture, you're not to be noisy or fight. How much you can comprehend will depend on your luck." Right now, he was like the heavenly Tao. When facing the common people, being emotionless was being fair. All of the creatures' heartbeats sped up as they looked at him with fanaticism. So Heavenly Saint was a realm. Could they do it too? Take control of a prefecture in the Great Thousand World? Just thinking about it made their blood boil. Everyone, begin to internalize qi and cultivate. I will begin to preach. From now on, the dojo will be closed. The living beings present did not sense anything, but the 9 heavens had already been hidden. The creatures that came late jumped straight to the 10th heaven and were unable to find any traces of the 9th heaven. Zhou Xuanji and the others immediately entered a state of cultivation. Sage Daojing didn't wait for all the living beings to start cultivating and directly spoke about the Tao. The Tao he preached was the same as what he had preached to Zhou Xuanji. Although the words were the same, his voice had some kind of magical power that could make the listener's heart calm down in an instant, placing them in a magnificent and heroic mood. The Heavenly Saints lecture officially began. The 8th heaven, Bai Hao Yisin and Feng Qiu stopped. The two traveled back and forth, but could not find the 9th heaven. It's too late. We missed it, Feng Qiu said with gritted teeth. He looked at Bai Hao Yisin with a murderous gaze. If not for Bai Hao Yisin seducing a girl along the way, he wouldn't have wasted so much time. Bai Hao Yisin felt very awkward and could only cover it up with laughter. Feng Qiu cursed. I've had enough. From today onwards, you and I will be strangers. You're on your own. Such trash. You can't even keep up with the heat. After that, he turned around and left. Bai Hao Yisin was so furious that he almost exploded. However, he felt guilty in his heart and could only clench his fists. This emperor doesn't believe that there's only one heavenly saint in the world, Bai Hao Yisin said with gritted teeth. He flew in another direction and prepared to leave the Center God province to search for serendipity elsewhere. The sky was dark. Countless crows circled in a mass grave. An eyeball on the gravel ground began to tremble. It slowly rose up, and strands of black qi flowed out from the graves and into the eyeball. A while later, the eyeball began to spin, and blood vessels covered the eyeball visibly. More and more black gas gathered and gradually condensed into a human figure. Xiandaoya, Great Emperor Dao Court. I will make sure that you will never be able to reincarnate. A chilling voice came. The eyeball was filled with an unforgettable, murderous intent. Time passed quickly as the heavenly saint preached the Tao. Every year, there would be breakthroughs in the preaching. Xiao Jinghong and the others were the same. They were far from heavenly revolution, golden immortal, and the spiritual qi here was extremely dense. They were the fastest to break through. Zhou Xuanji was also focused on cultivation. Within 10 years, he finally learned the 9th level of the Celestial Devil Rebirth technique. Now, he had 8 chances of rebirth. Other than that, he began deriving the world Buddha art. Sage Daojing stood high above. As he preached the Tao, he looked down with his eyes wide open, as though he was looking for potential talents. There was no need to mention Zhou Xuanji. He was definitely the most talented person here. He suddenly locked his gaze on Jiang Shui and then looked at Zhou Xuanji in confusion. Another 5 years passed. Beixiao Wangjian also broke through to Great Tribulation Scattered Immortal. The group from Emperor Sword Court all surpassed great realization. Chun Bantian and Meng Tianlang were the most devilishly talented. The 10,000-year prince received the heavenly saint's preaching and began to grow rapidly. He overtook Lin Chang'e straight away and became second only to Zhou Xuanji. Most importantly, the two advanced side by side and maintained the same cultivation. Chapter 499. Zhou Xuanji had already entered a state of enlightenment. He was alone in a vast world. There was no one around him, no preaching sight, and no golden pagoda. Above him was the boundless blue sky, and below him was the undulating, endless sea of clouds. He was practicing with his sword. He wielded the Crimson Dragon sword and practiced the White Crane sword technique. It was just like the first time he practiced the sword. He calmly practiced his swordsmanship. There was no majestic sword chi, only simple sword moves. After a while, he split into 2 clones and continued to practice the sword. The world was vast, and he was practicing his swordsmanship above the clouds. His consciousness had no goal. It was like an ant moving leaves, never knowing exhaustion. It was like an eagle that would forever hover in the sky. It was also like a drop of water that fell into a river. It was unknown where it would flow, and there was no trace to be found. More and more doppelgangers appeared, all of them practicing the white crane sword technique. 500, 5,000, 50,000, 500,000. After an unknown period of time, above the sea of clouds and below the sky, Zhou Xuanji's silhouettes were everywhere. At this moment, his consciousness gradually awakened. Everything has a Tao. Humans have a Tao, demons have a Tao, and demons have a Tao. The Tao can be small, but it can also be big. All the Taos in the world converge into the great Tao. Sage Daojing's voice suddenly sounded out, and Zhou Xuanji began thinking about his own Tao. He had learned many sword techniques and mastered many divine abilities. Previously, he had pursued the 10,000 swords to form a sword Tao world. As time passed, this would not be his ultimate goal. 10,000 years was long, and 10,000 swords were easy to reach. Then what was his true Tao? Sword Tao. All of Zhou Xuanji's began attacking each other. They were no longer using the white crane sword technique, but all sorts of sword techniques. Trisource Vein Severing Sword, Vibrant Raindrop Sword, Soul Eater Demon Slash, Stellar Sun, Ancestral Dragon Sword, Sky Dominating Divine Sword, 36 Paths Jade Shao Sword, Primordial Chaos Sword Shadow, Emperor's Way Thousand Hand Sword Buddha, and so on. A great battle of the way of the sword that belonged to Zhou Xuanji unfolded. In the outside world, waves began to rise around Zhou Xuanji. From afar, it looked like a tornado had wrapped around him. It was a spectacular sight. The people around him were all in a meditative state and were not affected by him. Sage Daojing nodded in satisfaction. As expected of the prodigy, he valued the most. At this moment, he suddenly looked up. 3 meteors with blazing tails streaked across the sky and fell into the sea of clouds. "He's here," Sage Daojing muttered, his face filled with worry. Miraculously, his voice never stopped, as if there were 2 of him talking. 10 years later, Zhou Xuanji finally broke through to Universe Heaven Level 1. Analyze that the sword owner has reached the Universe Heaven realm. Gotcha begins. Ding. Congratulations, the sword owner has obtained Celestial Shaking Zhu Yuan Luo Sword, Ancient Gazing Divine Wind Sword, and World Suppression. With the Heavenly Saint here, he didn't even need to go through a tribulation. His consciousness was always in a state of comprehension. He didn't even hear the sword spirit's voice. His heavenly Tao, immortal energy, surged, suppressing the entire dojo. Most creatures were startled. They opened their eyes and saw Zhou Xuanji's majestic spirit chi ripples, which were like a volcanic eruption. Jiang Shui, Huang Lianxin, Xiao Jinghong, and the others also opened their eyes and looked at Zhou Xuanji with admiration. Zhou Xuanji was always walking in front. Just his aura alone made them feel like they could not catch up. He did not open his eyes. After a brief moment of shock, the others continued to close their eyes and cultivate. Above the sea of clouds, giant God Huang Hao stood proudly. Before him was the setting sun. It was so dazzling and majestic. Old Star Lord appeared beside giant God Huang Hao and said, "Those 3 auras just now, did you sense them?" Giant God Huang Hao nodded and said with a solemn expression, "There's a powerful force that concealed their auras, and it's impossible to trace them. They seem to have descended from the 33rd heaven." The 33rd heaven was still Thought Temple, but the 33rd heaven was not the highest heaven. Legend said that one could face the heavenly law directly after reaching the 36th heaven. This might be related to the heavenly saint. Don't you think it's strange that he opened a dojo? Old Star Lord said with a frown, which made giant God Huang Hao fall into deep thought. In the recent hundreds of years, too many things had happened in the Center God province. The great Emperor Dao court, which used to hide in the dark, began to surface and rampage in the world. No matter what, I will protect the Center God province. Giant God Huang Hao said calmly with determination. He was not only the God Palace's war god, but also the Center God province's war god. If not for the God Palace's transfer back to the northern wilderness region, he would not have returned to the God Palace to serve the Master of Gods. It's better to be careful. Old Star-Lord sighed. After that, he flicked his sleeves and left. When Zhou Xuanji was 234 years old, he regained consciousness. He opened his eyes and realized that he was not in the Golden Tower, but in Still Thought Temple. Sage Daojing sat in front of him. Two people stood beside him. One was Marquis, and the other was an unfamiliar face. "You are finally awake," Sage Daojing said with a kind smile. Zhou Xuanji asked with a frown, "Is the lecture over?" Marquis snorted, "No. The dojo is still here. Sage has a mission for us to do." The more he looked at Zhou Xuanji, the more he disliked him. Zhou Xuanji sensed the anger in his tone and was confused. Did this guy become bedeviled? The game between the heavenly saints has begun. The three of you will become my chess pieces and head to the worlds of the other heavenly saints, Sage Daojing said, which attracted the three's attention. Zhou Xuanji had heard about this from Sage Daojing before. He did not expect it to come so soon. Fortunately, he had already broken through to Universe Heaven Level 1. His power grew tremendously, and he had the disaster-releasing legendary sword. The heavenly saint who is playing chess with me has already sent 3 chess pieces to the Center God Province. The heavenly saint cannot interfere in this chess game personally. The mission of the chess game is to steal the fate of the other world. The way to steal it is to kill and plunder. Kill the famous people in the other world and steal the creation items in the other world, Sage Daojing said casually, which made Zhou Xuanji frown. The game between the heavenly saints was about killing. When a world collapses, it is the other side's victory. The game ends, and it is a contest of power and speed. If you lose, all living beings in the Center God Province will turn to ashes under the heavenly law. Sage Daojing stared at Zhou Xuanji and the other two and said word by word. Zhou Xuanji could not help but ask, "Why do the heavenly saints have such a chess game? Are they so bored?" Sage Daojing looked at him and said, "This is not the wish of the heavenly saints. This is the will of the heavenly law. The various worlds cannot continue to grow endlessly. Do you understand? It's just like the mortal realm. There are endless wars and dynasties." Zhou Xuanji's frown deepened. Natural selection? How could the powerful survive? It's just like your hair. When it grows long, it will be cut. The cut-off part of your hair once shielded your head from the wind and rain. It's just like your bones and muscles. As you continue to break through, the things that supported your survival will become waste in your body. They need to be removed and cannot remain in your body forever. Chapter 500. Zhou Xuanji fell into silence. The heavenly saint's words made him understand that although it was a little heavy, he had no other choice. At least, he could still fight for the Center God Province. The Venerable One is indeed wise to open the dojo in advance, making it difficult for the opponent to win. Wang Ho chuckled and complimented. How did the 3 beings from the other universe kill the famous people of the Center God Province? All of them were listening to the Tao and the Bodhimanda. Zhou Xuanji heard this and thought, "That's right, this move is really brilliant." Reverend Daojing shook his head and said, "The dojo will end soon. I'm just helping everyone become stronger. Are you all prepared to head out?" Zhou Xuanji quickly asked, "That heavenly saint is also in the Great Thousand World? Which state are we going to?" Marquis and the other man who had not spoken looked curiously at Sage Daojing. Under the heavenly Tao, there is more than one great thousand realms. This time, I use the Center God Province as the playing field, and the next game will be another province. This cycle will be repeated, and it will not be unfair. The Center God Province is not the first to participate, and it will not be the last. Don't be too complacent. Before this, 3 provinces have already been wiped out. The land is desolate, and it will be difficult for it to recover on its own in 1,000,000 years. After speaking, he waved his right hand and took Zhou Xuanji and the others into his palm. He stood up and left Still Thought Temple, arriving in the vast starry sky. He looked into the distance, opened his right hand, and blew into his palm. A ball of light was blown out. Zhou Xuanji, Marquis, Wang, don't disappoint me. Sage Daojing watched them leave and muttered to himself. Meanwhile, within the orb of light, Zhou Xuanji and the others stood facing each other. Marquis started to introduce Zhou Xuanji. He pointed at the man beside him and smiled as he said, "This is Great Emperor Wang. You should have heard of him before. Speaking of which, it's quite a coincidence. The three of us are all from the northern wilderness." Emperor Wang. Zhou Xuanji's expression changed and immediately sized him up. Emperor Wang wore a gray Taoist robe. He had a scholarly bearing, fair skin, and a gentle smile on his face. He had the air of a scholarly young master. "Zhou Xuanji, we finally meet." Emperor Wang smiled with a meaningful look in his eyes. Zhou Xuanji understood his expression and asked with a smile, "You want to take the violet demon monarch's heart from my body?" Great Emperor Wang shook his head and said, "The violet demon monarch's heart can be condensed. This is an inheritance. My heart is still the violet demon monarch's heart. Your violet demon monarch's heart is inherited through my heart. It is still a creation of the heavens and earth, pure and flawless. This inheritance has been passed down for countless generations. Perhaps this is the arrangement of the heavenly Tao. Heavens will exist in the unseen world." His words made Zhou Xuanji think to himself. It seemed to make sense. After that, Zhou Xuanji asked about their cultivation. He was a noble universe heaven level 5 cultivator. Great Emperor Wang was at universe heaven level 4. In the northern wilderness region, Marquis had almost annihilated the demon race. After Yi Futian ascended, Great Emperor Wang had almost annihilated the human race. Who would have thought that they would be fighting side by side today? The living beings of the northern wilderness region would never have imagined this. What was even more unexpected was that Zhou Xuanji was already on the same level as them. That's right. Why did Reverend Daojing choose the three of us? My talent is acceptable, but it's impossible for the three of you to be ranked in the top 3 of the Center God Province like me, right? Zhou Xuanji asked mockingly, making Marquis want to hit him. Great Emperor Wang smiled and said, "The Great Emperor's steel doesn't mean much. The Reverend naturally has his reasons for choosing the northern wilderness region, and we can't guess it. Why don't we focus on the upcoming battle? We'll be facing an entire province and billions of living beings." Zhou Xuanji nodded. He had too many questions that he wanted to ask. After all, he was only 234 years old and did not know much about the Center God Province, let alone the Great Thousand Worlds and the other Great Thousand Worlds. Marquis harumphed and said, "Don't ask anymore. Just do your best to fight. It's very likely that we'll die there, so the three of us must be honest. We can't have selfish desires at this time." He looked at Great Emperor Wang, and his meaning was clear. Great Emperor Wang continued to smile warmly and said, "I've always been honest and upright and have never used underhanded methods." Zhou Xuanji did not pay any attention to them and looked ahead. The light around him gradually became transparent, and gradually he could see the starry sky outside. It was as resplendent as the Milky Way. Within the boundless universe, where was Earth? Zhou Xuanji shook his head and laughed. He did not think too much about it. He already had his own home in the northern wilderness, and the past was no longer important. In his previous life, the only people he cared about were his parents. After so many years, they had most likely reincarnated. As for love, he was currently protecting it. In the 9th heaven, Sage Daojing's lecture suddenly stopped. A bell sounded out, causing everyone to wake up. The heavenly law tribulation has begun, and the Center God Province has been chosen as one of the parties to the tribulation. The other world has sent 3 children of destiny to steal the Center God Province's fate. I have also sent 3 children of destiny to their world. Sage Daojing explained this matter to everyone in the Center God Province. Hearing this, everyone in the world was shocked, and all of the creatures in the preaching site were shocked. This is not a battle between the 3 of them. It is yours. Your task is to do everything possible to kill the enemy world's 3 children of destiny. If the Center God Province loses, all of the creatures in the Center God Province will be killed. If the Center God Province wins, your memories will be wiped, but you will be able to survive. The three children of destiny heading to the enemy world are Zhou Xuanji, Marquis, and Great Emperor Wang. Speaking to there, Sage Daojing's voice suddenly stopped. He looked at the millions of creatures in the preaching site. Your task is to work hard on cultivating. 10 years later, I will let you go, and you will be hunted down by the enemy world's children of destiny. Of course, you can also do the opposite. The lecture will continue. Sage Daojing continued to lecture, but all of the creatures present were given a big fright and could not calm down. Jiang Shui looked at the sky and did not say anything. Until today, she would not panic anymore. She believed that Zhou Xuanji could do it, and she would wait for him in the Center God Province. Wait for him to return. Xiao Jinghong, Zhao Songjian, Chun Bantian, and the others were sent into an uproar. They were not afraid, but excited. In the boundless universe, the orb of light around Zhou Xuanji and the others dissipated. Their bodies gave off light as they turned into meteors and flew away. Zhou Xuanji found that he could not move. There was a mysterious and powerful energy restricting him. He could not even communicate telepathically with Marquis and Great Emperor Wang. Soon, a sea of light appeared ahead, and the three of them fell into it. A powerful light flashed, and Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes. The clouds around him were madly flowing backwards, and he was falling. At that moment, a voice sounded out in Zhou Xuanji and the others' minds. I forgot to tell you that the world the Center God Province is facing is very powerful, far more powerful than the Center God Province. We will most likely lose this battle, which is why I hurriedly opened the preaching site. I hope that the three of you can bring me a miracle. Chapter 501. Hearing Sage Daojing's words, Zhou Xuanji almost cursed out. Why didn't he say this before? He would definitely lose? I don't understand. Zhou Xuanji quickly calmed down and looked down. He could already see the ocean surface and countless continents looking like small islands. However, he could sense that they were still quite far away from land. It was just that this world was too big. He did not know what Marquis and Great Emperor Wang's condition were, and his divine sense could not break through the power restricting him. Fortunately, the three of them were not too far apart and continued to walk side by side. Boom, boom, boom. The three of them fell to the ground, causing the surrounding 10,000 kilometers to be flattened. Wild winds blew and dust billowed. The instant they landed, Zhou Xuanji felt his legs go numb. He inwardly cursed. If his cultivation was not universe heaven, wouldn't he have fallen to his death? It was definitely the other side's heavenly saint. How vicious! He patted the dust off his body, and the restriction disappeared, and he quickly came before Marquis. Great Emperor Wang did the same. What should we do next? Zhou Xuanji asked. Marquis and Great Emperor Wang were both seniors, so he naturally had to ask them. If he did not have any ideas, he would have to act alone. Marquis said in a low voice, "Let's leave this place and hide for a while. We'll understand the situation of this world and kill those experts with great fate." Great Emperor Wang and Zhou Xuanji nodded, and the three of them left like a gust of wind, disappearing without a trace. Not too long after they left, figures descended from the sky, all of them giving off powerful auras. Despicable, we let them escape. Looks like those three people also have universe heaven cultivation. So what? The heavenly saint said that their world is far inferior to ours. How can we capture them? We don't even know what they look like. Let's wait. They'll definitely act. These powerful beings floated in the air and conversed. They were all in human form and spoke the same language as the Great Thousand World. At the bottom of a cliff, Zhou Xuanji and the others were internalizing qi against the cliff walls and cultivating. They discussed as they internalized qi. If we keep working together, once we're captured, we'll all be wiped out, Zhou Xuanji said. Zhou Xuanji muttered. He was confident in his own power. Emperor Wang nodded, but he was a little hesitant. If you act alone, you will be easily defeated one by one. If that's the case, you must have absolute confidence when you kill your enemies. Kill them in one strike, then leave immediately. This battle concerned the lives of billions of living beings in the Center God province, so they had no choice but to be cautious. If they were fighting for themselves, why would they need to discuss countermeasures? Wang Ho frowned in thought. Zhou Xuanji suddenly took out 4 stalks of concealment grass and passed it to the two of them. This is concealment grass, 2 stalks for each person. After consuming it, you can hide your aura and body for less than an hour. After consuming it, you must leave immediately. Wang Ho and Great Emperor Wuwang were rather shocked after receiving the concealment grass. There was such a treasure in the world? Since that's the case, I can't take it for free. Great Monarch Wang flipped his right hand, and 2 blood pills appeared in his hand. These are miracle blood pills forged from luck. Once consumed, one can be revived from the brink of death and fully recover from injuries in a matter of seconds. Zhou Xuanji took the Wonder Blood Spirit pill and said with a smile, "So powerful, I can't bear to use it." Great Emperor Wuwang loudly laughed. He enjoyed Zhou Xuanji's indirect flattery. Wang Ho took out 2 jade slips and said, "These are world-boundless jades. If you crush them, you can teleport them tens of millions of kilometers away. They can also save their lives at critical moments." Zhou Xuanji took the world-boundless jades and looked at them closely. Great Emperor Wuwang laughed and said, "World-boundless jades? It's said that they fell from the 36th heaven." 36th heaven? Zhou Xuanji asked out of curiosity. Legends say that above the 36th heaven is the heavenly law. Is that true? Great Emperor Wuwang shook his head and said, "I'm not sure. I've never been there." Wang Ho shrugged, indicating that he did not know. They rested for 2 days before leaving. This world was not smaller than the Center God province, and it would be very difficult for the experts here to find them. Unless they had truly fought, finding them would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. They quickly found a city and snuck in. They split up and went to gather information. Zhou Xuanji walked into an alleyway and found a beggar. He said, "I see that your bone foundation is not bad, but I don't know how intelligent you are. Tell me about your understanding of this world, and if it's not bad, I'll take you as my disciple and give you riches." Hearing this, the beggar lying on the ground immediately jumped up. Even though his body was dirty, he looked quite young. He immediately started talking nonstop. This world was called the Abyss Pearl Mainland, and it was ruled by the 3 god empires. There were 8 sanctums that ruled over the world, and there were heavenly saints who lived in the sky, while there were many mortal realms that ascended here. Zhou Xuanji asked if there were any rankings of experts. No matter which world it was, there would be all sorts of rankings. After all, there was no first in literature and no second in martial arts. Everyone wanted to chase after the strongest. The beggar replied that there was. The All Heaven Alliance branch in the city could buy the Abyss Pearl Hero rankings, as well as other rankings. Zhou Xuanji took out a level 3 spirit stone and threw it to him before turning and leaving. The beggar was stunned. That was it. What happened to taking him as a disciple? He was not furious. Instead, he took up the level 3 spirit stone happily. He could buy some meat now. Zhou Xuanji quickly found the merchant house of the All Heaven Alliance branch and bought a set of all the books on the rankings. After that, he left. An hour later, the 3 of them met and checked into an inn to discuss who to deal with. It was not easy to be discovered in the busy city, so they did not leave the city. Great Emperor Wang flipped through the Abyss Pearl Hero rankings and said, "The top 100 are all above Universe Heaven level 7, and the top 50 are above Universe Heaven level 12. Zhou Xuanji and Marquis lips twitched. This was a situation of death. Among them, Marquis was the most powerful, but he was only at Universe Heaven level 5. He was not even qualified to enter the top 100 of the Abyss Pearl Hero rankings. Marquis took a deep breath and said, "Seems like this battle is more difficult than we imagined." Zhou Xuanji looked at Great Emperor Wang and asked, "Who's the closest?" As long as they killed the top 100 of the Abyss Pearl Hero rankings, they should be able to win. After all, the more powerful they were, the luckier they would be. 30,000 miles away, there's a sect called the Great Sky Sect. Its sect lord, Lin Wuhong, is ranked 78th on the Abyss Pearl Hero rankings, Great Emperor Wuong said. Great Emperor Wuong muttered. He began to think about his chances of victory. Zhou Xuanji slammed the table and said, "Let's find him first. If we can't even defeat 78th, we might as well kill ourselves." Marquis was ignited by his heroism and laughed loudly. That's right. Zhou Xuanji had just broken through to Universe Heaven, and he dared to fight. He had no reason to be afraid. Great Emperor Wuong nodded. The next morning, the three of them left. They followed the map and quickly headed toward the Great Sky Sect. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 502. Hong Tian Sect. It was a famous sect in the Abyss Pearl mainland. The sect master, Lin Wuhong, was ranked 78th on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking list. His cultivation base was extremely high. Apart from him, there were more than 10 existences that surpassed real gods in the sect, not to mention how many real gods there were. There were more than 1 million disciples in the Great Sky Sect, and there were many towns and cities around the sect. Zhou Xuanji and the other two came to a small town at the foot of the mountain. They were drinking wine in the inn's courtyard. Looking over, there was a tall mountain that reached into the clouds. It was like a pillar that connected the heavens and was incredibly majestic. Looking around, one could see many cultivators flying up and down. There were also many immortal birds circling in the sky. It was like a land of immortals, beautiful like a painting. Emperor Wuong shook his head and said, "It seems like we have underestimated the power of the Hong Sky Sect. If they wanted to deal with Lin Wuhong, they would have to deal with the entire Hong Sky Sect." Zhou Xuanji was also thinking hard. He suddenly had a thought. Would the Divine Cliff be attacked by the 3 geniuses from the Abyss Pearl mainland, just like the Great Sky Sect? Probably not. The current Divine Cliff was not qualified. If the Abyss Pearl mainland was stronger than the Center God province, then the Children of Destiny that they sent would probably be stronger than them as well. This was not a good thing. After the thought, Zhou Xuanji took out the Furious Ape Sword and said, "This sword of mine can store energy. Can you help me hide my aura?" Wang Ho and Emperor Wuong looked at the Furious Ape Sword in surprise. Is this sword very powerful? Although they were puzzled, they still agreed. Then, they left the place and stayed far away from the Hong Sky Sect. They hid in a forest, and Zhou Xuanji channeled celestial energy into the Furious Ape Sword while absorbing and refining celestial energy. Great Emperor Wuong and Marquis stood on the 2 sides and began to form a formation. From the outside, the 3 of them could not be seen at all. Even the ripples of spiritual chi surged down from above and did not spill into the surroundings. 3 days later, Emperor Wuong and Marquis expressions changed. Their eyes were locked on the Furious Ape Sword. The sword looked like an ordinary sword, but it was like a bottomless pit that allowed Zhou Xuanji to channel immortal energy into it. They finally understood what Zhou Xuanji meant. This brat wanted to destroy the Great Sky Sect with a single slash. Time continued to pass. 10 days later, Zhou Xuanji's right hand trembled slightly. The Furious Ape Sword was already glowing with a white light, which contained extremely horrifying power. Now that he had reached Universe Heaven Level 1, the quality and quantity of his immortal power was far greater than before. A long time ago, he had relied on this sword to defeat his enemies, and he could still do it now. Wang Ho exclaimed, "This sword is too fierce." Even now, the Furious Ape Sword already gave them an extremely dangerous feeling. Emperor Wuong nodded his head and looked at the Furious Ape Sword with a fiery gaze. He suddenly wanted to create a similar mystic art. 20 days later, even Zhou Xuanji's right arm was trembling. He had no choice but to hold his sword with both hands. Cold sweat began to seep out of his forehead. Wang Ho swallowed and asked, "How much longer?" He felt that the current situation was already very terrifying. Zhou Xuanji replied, "I will only stop when you can't wait to get away from me. My opponent is a Universe Heaven Level 8 cultivator. Remember, it's the 8th floor. Do you know how powerful the 8th floor is? Wang Ho was speechless. Why did he feel like he was being mocked? Emperor Wuong smiled faintly, his eyes filled with anticipation. He muttered, "If this battle succeeds, we can always use this method in the future." Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes wide and said unpleasantly, "You want to squeeze me dry?" Great Monarch Wuong smiled ambiguously. "You can let us wield the swords." Zhou Xuanji shook his head and said, "Only I can use my swords. If I give them to others, they will become scrap metal." This sentence was true. Unless he died and the Supreme Legendary Sword System found another owner, he would not be able to transfer his swords. Great Monarch Wang said thoughtfully, "Looks like these swords have some sort of connection with you." Zhou Xuanji did not say anything else. This fellow was too smart, and if he continued, he might guess the existence of the system. Time continued to pass. The 50th day, Zhou Xuanji's body was trembling, especially the furious ape sword. It was like a sun giving off a brilliant light. Wang Ho's scalp felt numb, and he gritted his teeth as he said, "I want to leave immediately." Great Monarch Wang did not say anything, but he also stared at the furious ape sword, afraid that it would explode. Zhou Xuanji was also worried. This power was simply too terrifying, and he almost could not hold on to it. He gritted his teeth and forced a smile as he said, "Help me to the Great Sky Sect. It's best not to be discovered by the Great Sky Sect's people." "Help?" Wang Ho gulped. Great Monarch Wang also hesitated. They were afraid that they would be blown up with Zhou Xuanji. In the end, they mustered up their courage and helped Zhou Xuanji fly towards the Great Sky Sect. They flew very quickly, trying to be as steady as possible in case Zhou Xuanji suddenly let go. "Brother, stay steady," Wang Ho said softly. Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji did not know whether to laugh or cry. It was as if he was going to give birth. They continued onwards. They came to the massive peak where the Great Sky Sect was. Great Monarch Wang and Wang Ho dispelled the magic energy around them, and the three of them appeared. The two of them took the lead and retreated. Zhou Xuanji deeply breathed in and raised the furious ape sword with trembling hands. The Great Sky Sect disciples passing by were attracted by the furious ape sword's light. "That boy over there," he pointed at Zhou Xuanji and called out. Before he could finish speaking, Zhou Xuanji suddenly slashed downwards. A powerful light flashed, and the heavens and earth became as bright as day. A terrifying sword chi flowed out, and all living beings instantly lost their hearing. Zhou Xuanji could not see ahead clearly, nor could he hear anything. The Great Sky Sect's massive peak directly shattered, and all of the surrounding cities and living beings turned into dust. Wang Ho stared at this scene, dumbfounded. Great Monarch Wang's eyelids were also wildly twitching. The entire heavens and earth became bright white, and everything turned into nothingness. After slashing out, Zhou Xuanji felt a sense of dizziness. His body swayed, and he fell down. Great Monarch Wang acted in time and sucked him over. Zhou Xuanji continuously panted as he used the Tianxia map to provide him with heavenly law immortal energy. Before, he did not use the Tianxia map in case he became useless after slashing out. The white light gradually faded, and the heavens and earth returned to normal. In the distance, the disciple pointing at Zhou Xuanji was dumbfounded, looking incredibly shocked. Everything behind Zhou Xuanji was fine, but everything in front of him had been reduced to ruins. The forest disappeared, and the majestic mountain that connected the heavens and the earth also disappeared. Looking ahead, there was only desolation. Silence. Only the sound of wind could be heard. Zhou Xuanji destroyed the Great Sky Sect with a single slash, and the 10,000 kilometers in front of him had been reduced to wasteland. It was too terrifying. The disciple was so scared that he turned and ran. He suspected that he was in a nightmare. How could the Great Sky Sect be destroyed? And it had been destroyed by a single slash. In the distance, the people in the cities and towns all walked out and stared ahead dumbly. Wang Ho asked, "Should we retreat? If they continue to wait like this, they would definitely draw over other experts." Zhou Xuanji and great monarch Wuang nodded, and the three of them quickly flew over the horizon. On the way, Zhou Xuanji felt quite confused. His fame had not even spread. Could killing enemies like this steal fate? Chapter 503. The once magnificent Great Sky Sect had turned into a wasteland. On the rolling wasteland, not a single tree could be seen, let alone flowers and plants. After Zhou Xuanji and the others left, the cultivators in the distance gathered over. Dust rose into the sky, and the sea of clouds disappeared. The desolation in front of them stretched to the end, as if it reached the ends of the earth. The Great Sky Sect has been destroyed. The calamity is coming. An old man hovered in the air and shouted with a trembling voice. Just like the Center God province, the heavenly sages here also told everyone about the fight between the heavenly sages. It had been a long time since an enemy from another world had appeared, causing them to almost forget about this matter. To think that today, it must be the work of a child of destiny from another world. The news spread on the same day. The godly mountain of the Great Sky Sect was destroyed, and the entire sect, more than 1 million people, died without a trace. Apart from the disciples who were out on missions, no one was spared. Even the sect master, Lin Wuhong, perished here. When the news spread out, the whole world was shocked. The war of the two realms is here. Just how powerful is the child of destiny they sent? Oh my God, that is the Great Sky Sect. If even the Great Sky Sect was destroyed, wouldn't it be difficult for us to protect ourselves? What should we do now? All of the cities in the Abyss Pearl mainland were discussing this. News regarding the eruption of a war between two realms spread like wildfire to every corner of the Abyss Pearl mainland. The other side, Zhou Xuanji and the others came to a cave. Wang Ho sighed. Looks like I can't be your enemy from now on. You're too freakish. He finally understood why Sage Daojing had sent Zhou Xuanji to join this battle. This kid's sword was simply a great killing weapon. It was ridiculously strong. Zhou Xuanji sighed and said, after killing so many living beings, I'm not happy at all. He was not averse to killing, but he only killed his enemies. How many innocent people were implicated in this war between the two worlds? Don't think too much about it. This is the heavenly Tao. How many flowers and plants have we stepped on? Have we ever felt guilty? To the heavenly Tao, you and I are just flowers and grass. Rather than feeling regret, it is better to become stronger. There will come a day when we become heavenly saints. Only then will we be able to set the rules again. Great Emperor Wuang said. In the past, he had been as confused as Zhou Xuanji, but as he experienced more and more things, he had come to understand. It was just like war, a war that was beyond one's control. One had to fight even if one did not want to. However, there were too many living beings involved this time. Zhou Xuanji nodded and asked, who is next? Emperor Wuang did not take out the Abyss Pearl hero list. He said directly, Earth Dragon Race, Dragon King 9 lands. Zhou Xuanji took out the Furious Ape Sword and began to charge up. Wang Ho said excitedly, just fight like this, keep ambushing. Great Emperor Wuang shook his head and said, this method is powerful in the beginning, but there will come a day when it will be countered. We've wasted too much time, and we haven't grown stronger yet. I'm afraid there will be great trouble ahead. Marquis and Zhou Xuanji were in deep thought. Indeed, the three otherworlders of the Center God province were probably killing their enemies as they developed. The more they fought, the stronger they would become. Zhou Xuanji and the other two would be delayed for a long time because of the Furious Ape Sword. It doesn't matter. Let's go now. Let's slash first, and then we'll fight our own battles. Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuang did not have any objections. He used his magic energy to sweep away Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuang. Zhou Xuanji, on the other hand, extracted heavenly law celestial energy and injected it into the Furious Ape Sword. Sword Spirit, impart to me the Sword Tao divine ability that you obtained earlier. Zhou Xuanji ordered inwardly. When he had broken through to Universe Heaven, apart from obtaining 2 legendary swords, he had also obtained a divine ability called World Suppressing. Just from the name, it was not simple at all. Following this, a wave of memories flowed into his mind. He did two things at once and quickly comprehended world suppressing. World suppressing was a divine ability that turned fate into sword chi. It did not consume one's own fate, and the more powerful one's fate, the more powerful world suppressing would be. This divine ability had to be unleashed from above in order to be called world suppressing. Zhou Xuanji memorized the method to unleash this divine ability. There was no need to practice it. 7 days later, they landed on a cliff. Great Emperor Wuwang was very smart. They encountered many powerful sects along the way, but he intentionally went around them. After all, after what had happened to the Great Sky Sect, the entire Abyss Pearl mainland would definitely try to capture them. In front of them was a wasteland with countless canyons crisscrossing. It was like a piece of land that had been scorched to the point of splitting. The Earth Dragon clan is below. Should we directly charge down? Great Emperor Wuwang asked. If they swung their swords from above, it would be very difficult to threaten the Earth Dragon clan. If they were below, the furious ape sword's power would be too great, and it would injure them. Zhou Xuanji nodded, and legendary swords appeared around him. Hundreds of swords spun around him, creating a majestic scene. It was the first time that Great Emperor Wuwang and Marquis had personally seen Zhou Xuanji take out such swords. Their gazes fell on the Wolf Ancestor Soul Sword, Wind God Sword, and Seven Emotions Evil Sword, and they felt quite shocked. These three swords gave off such powerful auras. Apart from this, some of the swords were also very powerful. Just where did this boy get so many swords from? Zhou Xuanji ignored their gazes and leapt down first. Marquis and Great Emperor Wuwang followed closely behind him. This boy is really arrogant. He has the same spirit as I did in the northern wilderness, Marquis said in amazement. Marquis sighed. Emperor Wuwang smiled. Which great emperor who ascended from the northern wilderness was not arrogant and untamed? They had not changed, but they were more reserved. If they were to fight against enemies, they would still be fearless existences. Just like now, with just the three of them, they dared to charge into the Dragon Clan. Clang! 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 The sound of swords scraping against rocks continuously sounded out, shaking the ground. Soon, dragon roars sounded out from the depths of the ground, sounding ruthless and savage. Zhou Xuanji directly used Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep. His body became golden, and a 9-sword violet Tai Chi diagram appeared on his forehead. He completely exploded out with his aura. Ever since breaking through, it was the first time he had so madly released his power. Fiery light appeared below as a massive flaming dragon rose up, madly smashing through the rocks. Its eyes were filled with killing intent. Universe heaven, within a world of ice and snow. On the summit of a mountain, 2 figures stood proudly within the flying snow. The one standing in front was an elder wearing a red robe. His hair was tied up with a golden thread, and he had a well-built figure. His elderly face still looked resolute and resolute. Behind him stood a woman in a blue dress. She had a graceful figure, and her skin was as white as snow. She was incredibly beautiful, and her black hair was coiled up with 3 jade hairpins in it. She gave off an otherworldly aura. Revered teacher, what are you worried about? Didn't you say that the Center God Province cannot rival our Abyss Pearl mainland? The woman in the blue dress asked, a look of confusion on her face. The red-robed old man looked at the snowy horizon and sighed, saying, the heavens have changed. Before, the Center God Province would definitely lose, but the heavens have suddenly become blurry. It seems that Sage Doujing has made a good move, a move that I cannot understand. The woman in the blue dress frowned and asked, you mean that there's a child of destiny who can defeat our Abyss Pearl mainland? The red-robed elder did not reply, and his gaze became deep. After a long while, he spoke slowly. It's just a little blurry. It's impossible to reverse the situation. Chapter 504. Since that's the case, what are you worried about? Why did you call me back? The brows of the woman in the blue dress did not relax. she was still very puzzled. She felt that her master had a lot on his mind. The red-robed elder turned around and stared at her. Yushio, I've predicted your death tribulation. You'll definitely die in less than 100 years. Yushio, this was the woman's name. Her surname was Huang, Feng Yushio. She was ranked 3rd on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking. Death calamity? Feng Yushio's expression changed slightly as she said, who in the entire Abyss Pearl mainland can kill me? It was not that she was conceited. Even if she faced the number 1 on the Abyss Pearl hero leaderboard, she still had the strength to fight. The mysteries of heaven cannot be revealed. Go back. Remember, where there's a will, there's a way. Let's hope that we can break free from this calamity. The red-robed elder waved his hand, causing Feng Yushio to feel even more puzzled. Her master was a heavenly saint. There were still things that couldn't be revealed. She didn't dare to disturb him and left with a heart full of doubts. Rumble. Explosions occurred one after another in the dark underground, and all kinds of lights shone. Zhou Xuanji held the Wind God Sword and 7 Emotions Evil Sword, and he stood on the Wolf Ancestor Soul Sword. Hundreds of swords circled around him as he gritted his teeth and looked ahead. 1,000 feet away, a man in a golden robe with a dragon's head and a human's body, surrounded by raging flames, blocked the divine swords. He looked at Zhou Xuanji with disdain and said, Universe Heaven Level 1? Your Center God province is really weak. You can only send such weaklings to make up the numbers. His cultivation level had reached Universe Heaven Level 5. His aura was powerful and his magic power was boundless. Zhou Xuanji could barely fight him. Hearing his words, Zhou Xuanji's eyes turned cold. Zhou Xuanji did not say anything and directly used the power of the 3 ancient gazing swords. In that instant, his aura exploded out. The 3 violent waves of God power challenged the limits of his body, causing his face to contort. The golden-robed man was stunned for a moment before he immediately attacked. With a palm strike, countless fire dragons charged out from the surrounding rocks and mud, tearing at Zhou Xuanji. Sword Sect Immortal Ghost Weep helped Zhou Xuanji defend against all attacks around him. He abruptly condensed 9 sword souls and unleashed the 10,000 ultimate steps to attack the golden-robed man. The 2 swords slashed down, and the golden-robed man was sent flying, but he did not bleed. This fellow's dragon body was already ridiculously hard. Even the ancient gazing sword couldn't directly cut through it. Zhou Xuanji gave chase, and the 9 sword souls shot out one after another. At the same time, Wang Ho and Emperor Wang were fighting their own battles. Marquis fought against Dragon King Jiuyu. He grew to 30 meters tall, and his muscles bulged like armor. He was extremely domineering, and his eyes were overflowing with blue flames. He was actually on par with Dragon King Jiuyu. One had to know that Dragon King Jiuyu's cultivation was at Universe Heaven Level 9. There was a difference of 4 levels between them, but Marquis was still able to fight. It was unbelievable. Kid, what's your name? Dragon King Jiuyu shouted. He was shocked. No wonder the Center God province dared to send these 3 over. Although their cultivation levels were low, their talent was ridiculously strong. Putting aside Zhou Xuanji, Great Emperor Wang had tied down 7 Universe Heaven cultivators by himself. Just the 3 of them were enough to make their Earth Dragon clan restless. Wang Ho, a noble born to be a monarch. Wang Ho laughed out loud. His fists were like the wind, and his legs were surrounded by lightning. Every punch and kick contained the power of a divine technique. He inwardly felt quite anxious. If they continued to fight like this, more and more experts would come. It was not just him. Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wang were also quite anxious. Zhou Xuanji quickly took out 30 swords and cast the Hades God-slaying formation. Boy, how can your swords make up for the difference in cultivation? The golden-robed man wildly laughed, his words filled with mockery. At that moment, the Earth Dragon clan's experts came to support Zhou Xuanji and surrounded him. The Hades God-slaying formation was quickly formed, and a 3-headed ghost tiger furiously roared as it charged out. It was 300 meters long and looked incredibly domineering. Boom! An azure dragon breathed out intense flames, directly burning the three-headed ghost tiger into ashes. Zhou Xuanji felt quite awkward. The Golden Robe Man and the Earth Dragon Clan's experts loudly laughed. I'm afraid I'm going to die from laughter. Ha ha! What did I just see? Boy, your summoning techniques haven't reached perfection yet. He's still a little baby. Let's eat him. I'll eat the leg. Zhou Xuanji was furious. He dared to mock his elder. He let go of his hands, and following this, a sword shining with golden light appeared in his right palm. This sword was completely golden, and the blade was 5 meters long. It was incredibly sharp and beautiful, and there was a golden crescent moon at the front of the hilt. There were 9 orbs of light on the crescent moon, giving off a searing aura. Disaster-releasing legendary sword. 9 moon execution sword. Holding this sword, Zhou Xuanji did not say anything and madly swung it forwards. Kill these earthworms! He furiously roared as he unleashed the Trisource Vein severing sword. Sword Chi bore berserk like a wild gale and a torrential rain, wreaking havoc in the surroundings. Any rocks or mountain walls that were hit by the sword Chi directly turned into dust. The Earth Dragon Clan's experts howled and quickly dodged. They were unable to block the sword Chi at all. As usual, the Golden Robed Man used his physical body to block the attack. He was shocked to find that the surface of his body had been cut open by the sword Chi, and blood flowed out of his wounds. His entire body was covered in blood. How was this possible? What sword is that? The Golden Robed Man thought in terror and prepared to dodge. Zhou Xuanji suddenly used the 9 moon execution sword's disaster-releasing power. Boom! The berserk sword Chi directly turned the golden-robed man into mincemeat, and even his soul was destroyed. Instant kill. He could not resist at all. Zhou Xuanji was incredibly delighted and wildly laughed. He gripped the 9 moon execution sword and started to move underground. His right hand continuously danced with the sword, and the heavenly law immortal energy in his body did not decrease, but instead became stronger. He fused world internalization into the 9 moon execution sword, causing the sword Chi to help him absorb his enemy's magic energy while killing them. Berserk, domineering, howls continuously sounded out. Zhou Xuanji was like a peerless sword god, holding a sword that gave off a golden light as he rampaged. Hurry and run. Ah, what sword is that? So terrifying, my body, no. All sorts of howls sounded out underground. Zhou Xuanji quickly came near Great Emperor Wuong. Seeing how berserk he was, Great Emperor Wuong hurriedly dodged. The other Earth Dragon Clan's experts could not dodge. They had to protect their clansmen, and they all charged at Zhou Xuanji. Afterwards, he died within the sword Chi, and not even his corpse was left. What sword is that? Why is it so powerful? Great Emperor Wuong frowned and stared at Zhou Xuanji. The 9 moon execution sword destructive power made even his heart tremble. Most importantly, Zhou Xuanji's immortal energy seemed to be boundless. After spending so much, his condition became better and better. There was no justice in this world. Zhou Xuanji intentionally avoided Great Emperor Wuong and rushed toward Marquis's. Universe Heaven experts charged over one after another, but before they could get within 30 meters of him, they were killed by the sword Chi. This was not a battle at all. Chapter 505. With the 9 moon execution sword in his hand, Zhou Xuanji's aura surged, and he became more and more powerful as he fought. With the help of world internalization, his cultivation began to grow. The enemy's magic energy was absorbed into his body and converted into heavenly law immortal energy. His condition was getting better and better. The disaster-releasing divine sword was truly domineering. Even a primordial heaven expert wouldn't be able to block it. Dragon King Juyu, who was at Universe Heaven level 9, could not just sit by and do nothing. He quickly rushed at Zhou Xuanji, preparing to kill him. Because of this, Marquis could not help but let out a sigh of relief. He looked at the 9 moon execution sword in Zhou Xuanji's hands in terror. What kind of sword was this? Why hadn't I seen it before? How many swords did this kid have? Facing Dragon King Juyu, Zhou Xuanji did not fear him at all. He laughed arrogantly and said, "The Earth Dragon clan is only SOSO." He immediately unleashed the sword soul, attaching it to his right arm and the nine-moon execution sword. He fiercely swung the sword. This slash instantly consumed all of the heavenly law immortal energy in his body. The sword chi rushed forward at an extremely fast speed. Dragon King Jiuyu was infuriated, but he didn't try to dodge. Instead, he transformed into a massive, ancient dragon, his entire body burning with blue flames as he met the sword soul head-on. Boom! Zhou Xuanji received a large amount of magic energy in an instant, which turned into heavenly law celestial energy. His condition reached perfection, even surpassing his peak. Two of Dragon King Juyu's dragon horns had been sliced off by the sword chi, and a long gash had appeared on his head, from which blood gushed out like a fountain. Zhou Xuanji also unleashed a sword soul, and berserk sword chi once again landed on Dragon King Juyu's body, causing him to howl. Dragon King Juyu had been beaten senseless. Only by truly facing the nine-moon execution sword could he truly feel how powerful it was, especially with the support of the world internalization and the sword soul. His sword chi can absorb my magic power. Dragon King Juyu's heart thumped wildly, unable to comprehend what was going on. At this moment, Zhou Xuanji seemed to have realized something. The power of the nine-moon execution sword was definitely not like that. He could sense the power of the 9 great moons. He gave a low shout, and the 9-moon execution sword burst forth with a bright and strong light. 9 great divine moons flew out from the strong light and surrounded him vertically. The entire underground space was filled with the strong light of the 9 divine moons, and the other creatures were so dazzled that they couldn't even open their eyes. This is Divine Moon. How is this possible? Dragon King Jiuyu's eyes widened as he exclaimed in shock, as if he had seen the most terrifying existence in the world. Zhou Xuanji swung again. The 9 great divine moons rushed out as well, colliding with his enormous dragon body as if they had teleported. The light of the divine moons linked together, suppressing him. Roar! Dragon King Jiyu let out a pained howl as his body was gradually shredded by the divine light of the 9 moons. In the blink of an eye, he was reduced to a pile of bones. Endless magic energy flowed into Zhou Xuanji's body. Awesome. It felt so good. If this continued, he wouldn't be far from breaking through. He suddenly felt that Gu Tianxiao was indeed a peerless genius. The world Buddha art was truly amazing. Based on this alone, no human ancestor in the northern wilderness region could surpass him. Soon, Dragon King Jiyu was completely killed by the divine moon. As a universe heaven level 9 realm dragon king, he only had time to escape with a wisp of his remnant soul, which quickly disappeared into the soil. Zhou Xuanji charged up and cried out, "Follow me!" Great Emperor Wuong and Marquis, who were still in a daze, quickly followed. The 3 of them quickly flew out of the canyon and into the sky. Zhou Xuanji madly swung his sword downwards, and countless traces of sword chi rushed down. The Earth Dragon clan creatures that were about to rush out were all killed. Boom! 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 The sword chi blasted the ground, causing the surrounding 100 kilometers to sink. Even though the Earth Dragon clan had perished in this battle, even though less than 10% of the Earth Dragon clan's dragons remained, and Dragon King Jiyu's remnant soul had escaped, it would take at least 10,000 years for him to recover to his peak. In the final attack, Zhou Xuanji's sword chi had not hit too many dragons, so he had used up all of his immortal energy and felt quite weak. "Hurry up and help me leave. Are you going to stay here and wait for death?" Zhou Xuanji said unhappily as he looked at Marquis and Great Emperor Wuong. Marquis and Great Emperor Wuong looked at each other and smiled, and they quickly helped him leave. They moved incredibly quickly in case other experts came to support them. However, an extremely powerful aura swept out from behind them, The three of them looked back and saw a white-haired man wearing golden armor rushing over. His gaze was filled with killing intent, and there was a golden halo of light on his back that seemed to contain many spears. "Where do you think you're going?" he said coldly as he drew closer and closer to Zhou, Xuanji, and the others. His aura was even more powerful than Dragon King Jiuyu's. Marquis immediately shouted, "You guys run first. I'll stop him." After saying this, Marquis turned and charged at the other party. Great Emperor Wuwang once again sped up. Zhou Xuanji frowned and asked, "Should I use the Wonder Blood Spirit Pill and fight with him?" Great Emperor Wuwang shook his head and said, "He has the world boundless jade. If we stay and fight, we will only attract more enemies." He was not surprised by Marquis' decision. Zhou Xuanji's performance just then had already made them come to a consensus. That was to place their hopes on Zhou Xuanji. This boy only had Universe Heaven Level 1 cultivation, and yet he could kill a Universe Heaven Level 8 cultivator. No matter how they looked at it, this boy's potential was greater than theirs. Great Emperor Wuwang made up his mind that if they encountered such a situation again, he would do his best to protect Zhou Xuanji. The two of them soon disappeared over the horizon. 3 days later, they came to an underground cave to rest. They first recovered their qi and blood, and they looked at each other silently. A long while later, Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and said, "Now that we've lost contact with Marquis, should we search for him or continue?" Great Emperor Wuwang opened his eyes as well. His gaze flickered as he said, "Let's continue. It's good that we split up. This way, the Abyss Pearl mainland's attention will be divided." He believed that Marquis would not die. If this fellow died so easily, he would have died long ago. Zhou Xuanji nodded before closing his eyes and continuing to replenish his heavenly law celestial energy. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuwang appeared again. News of the battle with the Earth Dragon clan had spread throughout the Abyss Pearl mainland, making everyone anxious. The Great Sky Sect and the Earth Dragon clan were both top-tier factions, and yet they were destroyed by 3 children of destiny from another world within half a year? Just how powerful were these children of destiny? Soon, the entire Abyss Pearl mainland was discussing Zhou Xuanji and the other two. Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuwang came to the north of the Abyss Pearl mainland. They had to expand their battle space so that the Abyss Pearl mainland could not predict where they would fight. Their next target was the Frost Demon Sect. The Frost Demon Sect's strength was similar to the Earth Dragon clan. With the 9 Moon Execution Sword, they should be able to destroy the Frost Demon Sect, but they had to be fast. 3 days after they left, a man walked into the cave that they had stayed in before. This person wore white clothes and looked handsome. He had a faint stubble by the side of his mouth, and his black hair was combed back. His facial features were sharp, and his eyes were bright. He placed his left hand behind his waist and pinched his right hand together as he divined. "They escaped again," he mumbled, "but this time it was just a little bit. I should be able to catch up to them next time." Chapter 506. The Freezing Demon Sect was one of the overlords of the Devil Tao in the Abyss Pearl mainland. Dozens of primordial heavens and hundreds of heavenly law true gods were extremely powerful. At his peak, he could dominate the demonic path. The Frigid Demon Sect was located on a high mountain, and the cold wind was bone-chilling. Countless cultivators were scattered around the various watchtowers on the mountain. There were also disciples guarding the plains at the foot of the mountain. The war between the two worlds had already broken out, and the Flood Sky Sect and the Earth Dragon clan had been brutally murdered. Although they were far away, they still felt uneasy. Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuwang walked on the plains and looked at the Frost Demon Sect from afar. They could sense an austere aura. Looks like the Frigid Demon Sect is smart. They can't start the battle immediately. Emperor Wuwang chuckled and stopped in his tracks. "Give up?" Zhou Xuanji asked. He could also sense the danger. This battle would probably be more difficult than the previous two. Emperor Wuwang pondered for a moment, and then he nodded. "Let's retreat. Let's focus on the treasures created by nature." Seizing luck was not just limited to killing enemies. They could also snatch treasures that contained the chi of heaven and earth. For example, the 18 divine swords in the boundless universe. Zhou Xuanji nodded, and the two turned and left. The calamity of the cold demon sect was thus avoided. The speed at which they left was also very fast. An hour later, they suddenly stopped. A person appeared in front of him and walked over slowly. This person was the white-robed man who had been searching for them. He had even found a karst cave they lived in. "Where do you think you're going?" Even though they were 1,000 meters apart, his gaze still met Zhou Xuanji's and Great Emperor Wuwang's, and he was not worried that his prey would escape at all. At this point, they no longer had any hope of escaping. Emperor Wuwang narrowed his eyes. "You're truly impressive. You've managed to catch us after chasing us for so long." Zhou Xuanji was expressionless, but he was astonished in his heart. This guy had been following them all this time? Why hadn't Emperor Wuwang mentioned this before? Does he think that I've already sensed it? The tacit understanding between experts? Zhou Xuanji thought to himself as he locked his gaze on the man in white. "Remember my name? Ichiotian." The white-robed man smiled. As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and a black oil lamp appeared in his hand. The candle flame swayed in the wind, stubbornly refusing to budge. "Ichiotian?" Great Emperor Wuwang's expression slightly fell, and he immediately sent a telepathic message to Zhou Xuanji, saying, "Hurry and leave. I'll block him. This person is someone that the Venerable One has specially heard of. We must avoid him if we encounter him." Zhou Xuanji frowned. There was no such name on the Abyss Pearl hero ranking, but Sage Daojing had warned Great Emperor Wuwang. What did this mean? Could it be an existence similar to the old beggar and the old immortal? "None of you can escape," Ichiotian said with a smile as he stepped in front of the two of them. Zhou Xuanji instinctively took out the nine-moon execution sword and prepared to fight. Ichiotian suddenly waved his hand, and the black lamp gave off a brilliant fiery light. Zhou Xuanji felt that his soul had suffered a heavy blow, and he felt dizzy. In the next second, he was absorbed by the black lamp. Emperor Wuwang transformed into a wave of demonic aura, but he was still sucked away by the black lamp. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, a black light swept out from the demonic aura and disappeared into the horizon. Ichiotian raised his brows slightly and muttered, "This demon is not simple. Could it be his natural mystique?" He shook his head and turned to leave. Meanwhile, Zhou Xuanji regained consciousness. He opened his eyes and was shocked to find that he was surrounded by flames. It was as though he was in a sea of fire with no end in sight. Looking up, he saw countless sparks floating in the sky. Could this be the world within the lamp? Zhou Xuanji frowned deeply. He immediately took out the ancient god sword and communicated with the 9 souls. This scene made him feel like Monkey Sun was in the 8 trigrams furnace. "Where's this?" "Brat, I told you not to be reckless, but you didn't listen." Could it be the black prison lamp? Be careful. The surrounding flames are not simple. Are we going to capsize? The souls of the great beings all spoke up, and Venerable Xian even recognized the lamp's origin. The black prison lamp was one of the righteous Qian Great Thousand's heavenly law artifacts. It contained innate divine flames that could burn everything in the world. "What's righteous Qian Great Thousand?" Zhou Xuanji asked Sovereign Xian. He was curious why Sovereign Xian knew Ichiotian. Sovereign Xian replied, "The righteous Qian Great Thousand is the righteous Qian Great Thousand World. There are many Great Thousand Worlds, and the Center God Province's Great Thousand World is only one corner. When you surpass Universe Heaven, you'll be able to freely travel to other Great Thousand Worlds." Did this mean that Ichiotian had surpassed Universe Heaven? Zhou Xuanji asked, "How can I escape?" Sovereign Xian sighed and said, "You can't escape unless your cultivation surpasses his." The other souls started to panic. Emperor Zhao called out, "No way. I haven't even revived, and this boy is going to die." Hearing this, Zhou Xuanji wanted to hit him. "Why did the heavenly saints send you? It's not fair." Demon Lord Ryuan cursed. Zhou Xuanji had only just reached Universe Heaven, and yet he had been sent to participate in such a dangerous mission. Zhou Xuanji felt quite annoyed. Could it be that he really could not escape? Don't panic, Sovereign Xian once again said. Emperor Songhai called out, Big bro, are you trying to scare us to death? What method do you have to escape? Hurry up and tell us. Sovereign Xian sighed and said, He's my sworn little brother. Silence. The souls all fell silent, and Zhou Xuanji's eyes widened. What the hell? Sworn little brother? A sworn little brother that transcended great thousand worlds? Zhou Xuanji said anxiously. Are you guys on good terms? Don't tell me you're brothers who turn against each other. Sovereign Xian laughed in anger at his questioning. Turn against each other? We brothers are both invincible existences in our own great thousand worlds. Why would we turn against each other? Sovereign Xian said proudly. His tone changed as he said, Don't go out yet. Just cultivate in the black prism lamp. If he wanted to kill you, you would already be dead. This is a test. With his abilities and personality, he would not care about a war between two worlds. He most likely has other things to ask of you. Zhou Xuanji frowned. A test? Just as he was about to continue asking, a wave of memories flowed into his mind. He sat down cross-legged and carefully comprehended these memories. This was a divine ability. It was called Battle Path Flame Soul. It could be used to fight, cultivate, and absorb any fire seed under the heavenly law. After Zhou Xuanji comprehended all of the cultivation techniques, he slowly opened his eyes. He asked in his heart, Did you create this divine ability? It was very powerful. He felt that it was not any weaker than the World Buddha art. That's right. After you learn it, each Xiaoqian will understand that you are my successor and will not deliberately make things difficult for you. Also, don't tell me that I'm already dead, Sovereign Xian replied. The first half of his sentence was arrogant, but the second half was a little awkward. He had died such a pitiful death. He did not have the face to tell his old friend. Zhou Xuanji laughed before beginning to cultivate Battle Path Flame Soul. In the outside world, Ichioqian came to a massive waterfall. This waterfall was thousands of meters tall and hundreds of meters wide. It was surging violently, and the lake below was like a vast ocean filled with mist. Following his gaze, he saw a golden ape levitating at the center of the waterfall, enduring the impact of the violent water. I have countless legendary swords. Chapter 507. General, the war between the two worlds has begun. What are you waiting for? Ichioqian said with a smile. His voice was soft, but could be heard clearly by the golden ape. At the center of the waterfall, the golden ape opened his eyes slowly. His blood-red eyes looked down at Ichioqian and said, Ichioqian, why are you so concerned about me? Even if you have a scheme, you should not be so attentive. Ichioqian shook his head and laughed. I'm just fighting for an opportunity for both of us. Having heard him, the golden ape got up slowly. His upper body was bare, and his muscles were as tough as divine rocks. It was a striking sight. He walked out from the waterfall. Ichioqian, what are you going to do? The golden ape asked. He twisted his neck, and the water on his body evaporated into steam that wrapped around his body. He landed quickly and came up to Ichioqian. He was 15 meters tall. Compared to Ichioqian, he was like a mountain. The war between the two worlds will be our chance, Ichioqian said with a smile before explaining his plan. At the same time, in the black prison lamp, Zhou Xuanji was absorbing the flames around him to cultivate the Battle Path Flame Soul. A fiery figure levitated behind him like an armored fire god. It was difficult to tell its true appearance just by looking at its shape. The ancient god sword levitated beside him. Sovereign Xian praised in his mind, You are really talented. You can cultivate it so quickly. Amazing. If it were not for the urgent situation, he would not have taught his divine ability to others. Fortunately, Zhou Xuanji did not let him down. Of course, Zhou Xuanji thought to himself proudly. Absorbing the flames with the Battle Path Flame Soul, he realized that his cultivation was growing. This meant that his cultivation could grow tremendously with the flames in the black prison lamp. Just like Sun Wukong, who jumped out of the 8 trigrams furnace. Not only did he master the fiery golden eyes, but his cultivation grew tremendously as well. He almost fell into the Cloud King Palace. The billowing flames flowed into his body and made the battle path flame soul behind him more solid. After a while, a silhouette appeared before him. It was Yi Qiuqian. Yi Qiuqian frowned and asked, "Battle path flame soul, what's your relationship with Sovereign Xian?" Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and replied calmly, "Teacher and friend." Yi Qiuqian frowned even deeper. Zhou Xuanji ignored him and closed his eyes to cultivate again. Since Sovereign Xian had said that Yi Qiuqian would not kill him, then he could continue cultivating without worry. After all, he was powerless to resist. Yi Qiuqian had a complicated look in his eyes as he said, "Then you can cultivate here. If you can make it out by yourself, I will let you live and will not attack you again." With that, Yi Qiuqian disappeared. Zhou Xuanji opened his eyes and felt curious. Why did Yi Qiuqian want to capture him? Given Yi Qiuqian's capabilities, he probably wouldn't care about the fate of a continent. He had asked Venerable Xian. Venerable Xian was ambiguous, saying that there was no knowing what was in a man's heart. How would he know? However, seeing how he was not surprised, Zhou Xuanji believed that he definitely knew. Zhou Xuanji stopped thinking about it and continued to cultivate. 1 month later, his battle path fire soul had been completely cultivated. The domineering fire soul floated behind him and attached itself to the surface of his body, causing his battle strength to skyrocket. This effect was similar to a secret technique that could temporarily raise one's cultivation. Not only that, the battle path flame soul could also fight on its own. Zhou Xuanji's cultivation had reached a limit and could break through at any time. In the battle with the Earth Dragon clan, he had absorbed a massive amount of cultivation, which saved him a lot of hard work. If he wanted to break through, he would not be able to do it in a short time. In the blink of an eye, 3 years passed. Zhou Xuanji had been suppressing the urge to break through. He wanted to make his battle path fire soul more solid. This day, he could not hold it in any longer and prepare to break through. Boom! Violent celestial energy exploded out, causing the sea of flames to roil. Because in the black prison lamp, he did not even need to undergo a tribulation. Outside, Yi Qiuqian's head was filled with a majestic starry sky, and below him was a sea of clouds. He opened his eyes suddenly, and a trace of shock flashed in his eyes. "Sage Daojing," he mumbled. "Among the 9 saints, your eyes are the sharpest indeed." With a strange smile, he took out the black prison lamp with his right hand and began forming hand seals with his left hand. Strands of green flames came out of his palm and flowed into the black prison lamp. In another great thousand world far away, Still Thought Temple, Sage Daojing opened his eyes slowly with a slight frown. Yi Qiuqian's image was reflected in his eyes. "This guy is troublesome indeed. It's a pity that you are too late. You can only help Zhou Xuanji." Sage Daojing's lips curled up in a pleased smile. Shortly after, he closed his eyes and continued to comprehend the heavenly law. Zhou Xuanji used 3 days to break through to Universe Heaven Level 2. The heavenly law's celestial energy in his body grew tremendously. At the same time, a domineering flame coursed through his bones and tendons. It was like celestial energy that he could control. After the breakthrough, Zhou Xuanji felt that both his body and soul were transformed. In Hunyuan Luo Tian, every breakthrough was a completely new transformation. He opened his eyes and looked up. Above his head was a sea of clouds formed by the green flames. The clouds billowed like the hideous face of an evil demon, looking at him fiercely. Zhou Xuanji smiled. The battle path fire soul in his body got up and opened its mouth, devouring the sea of green flames. After the green flames entered the battle path flame soul, his physical body was ignited with green flames that burned fiercely. His aura grew tremendously. Black prison green flame. This is the original flame of the black prison lamp. Yi Qiuqian wants to help you, Sovereign Xian praised in Zhou Xuanji's mind. The more powerful Zhou Xuanji was, the safer he would be. As for Yi Qiuqian's goal, he knew it, but it did not affect him. Because in his eyes, Zhou Xuanji would be like Yi Qiuqian one day and break through to that stage. Fengxian God Dynasty, in the royal capital. On a massive training ground, Marquis was tied to a scalding iron pillar. Chains wrapped around his body, and there were many sharp hooks on the surface of the chains. As they slid, they tore at his skin. Marquis's clothes were tattered, and his hair was disheveled. His face was covered in blood spots, but his eyes were still bright and determined. He looked toward the horizon, as though he was waiting. The training ground was surrounded by a sea of people, and there were people watching from the buildings far away. He's the otherworldly child of destiny. He can remain so calm after such torture. Amazing. Amazing, my ass. He's our enemy. Looks like his companions won't come to save him. How can they save him? If they dare to come, they will die without a doubt. If I were them, I wouldn't come either. After all, I'm carrying the lives of billions of people on my back. The cultivators and commoners discussed among themselves. Some admired Marquis, some mocked him, and some cursed him. Behind the training ground, there was a small mountain that surrounded the city. There was a building at the top of the mountain, and a man wearing a black robe with tiger patterns stood beside the building. Behind him stood a row of soldiers. He snorted coldly and said, "They're still not coming? Let's just kill him." It had been a month since they captured Marquis, and the news had been out for 20 days. The other two otherworldly beings still did not appear, which wore out his patience. Chapter 508. General, please reconsider. He's already in our hands anyway. A silver-armored man stepped forward and cupped his fists, afraid that the black-robed man would act rashly. The black-robed man was a divine martial marquis of the Fengxian God Dynasty. His name was Emperor Tsang, and he was ranked 48th on the Abyss Pearl Hero Leaderboard. A Universe Heaven Realm Level 12 was extremely powerful. When Wang Ho encountered him, he was immediately defeated. When the two kings met, Ho was no match for Tsang. Emperor Azure coldly snorted, "What a waste of time. Just kill him directly." The children of destiny of the Center God Province are only SOSO. They are far from being comparable to our Abyss Pearl mainland. The silver-armored man nodded in agreement, not daring to retort. That was indeed what he was thinking. In another part of the imperial city, Feng Yuxiu was playing the zither in the courtyard. She wasn't the only one. There were many experts hiding in the imperial city, waiting for the other two otherworlders to descend so that they could kill them together. She frowned slightly and muttered to herself, "Why do I always feel uneasy?" She felt that something was wrong with the Fengxian God Dynasty. The children of destiny sent by the War of the Two Realms would definitely be top-notch existences. It was very likely that they were not good friends to begin with. Furthermore, with the stakes of the War of the Two Realms, wanting to rely on one of them to lure the other two was undoubtedly a pipe dream. It was impossible for the Fengxian God Dynasty not to have thought of this. Since that was the case, why did they still do it? She began to hesitate, wondering if she should leave this place. Forget it. Let's wait a little longer. She sighed softly. The death tribulation that her master had mentioned made it difficult for her to calm down. If she did not overcome the tribulation, she would not be able to fully focus on her cultivation. Her master's predictions had never been wrong. Inside the green hell lamp, Zhou Xuanji absorbed the black prison green flame and even controlled it. According to Xianzun, a normal universe heaven cultivator would be burned to ashes if they came into contact with this flame. If he had not absorbed the light earlier, he would have been burned to ashes by the black hell green flames. Zhou Xuanji let out a long sigh and asked, "If this continues, how long will we have to wait to force our way out?" He couldn't wait too long. After all, he was in the middle of a war between two worlds. Why don't you beg Yi Qiuqian? Sovereign Xian's words caused Zhou Xuanji's mouth to twitch. At their level, would begging make them soft-hearted? Do you want to go out? Yi Qiuqian's calm voice suddenly rang out. Zhou Xuanji replied with narrowed eyes. Of course. You trapped me, but did not kill me. What do you want? Just tell me. It will save both our time and energy. Ichiotian fell silent. Zhou Xuanji patiently waited. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, only then did Ichiotian speak. I believe in your talent. One day, you will reach my current level. Let me ask you, do you want to become a saint, or do you want to be suppressed by a heavenly saint forever? Zhou Xuanji frowned. What did that mean? Sow discord? He replied, naturally, I will become a saint. To cultivate, one had to fight against the heavens and constantly surpass their limits. That is impossible. There can only be 9 saints under the heavenly way. Once the 9 saints are full, only a heavenly saint will have the potential to become a saint. Ichiotian snorted coldly. His tone was filled with dissatisfaction. Zhou Xuanji immediately understood what he meant. It turned out that this fellow wanted to rope him in and work together to deal with the heavenly saints. If you let me out and help me obtain victory in the battle of the 2 realms, we can pursue the position of heavenly saint together. Zhou Xuanji said, other than Sage Daojing, there are 8 other heavenly saints. This was not a difficult choice. I can only let you out. If I help you openly, won't I anger the heavenly saints here and seek death? Ichiotian replied. Just when he spoke, Zhou Xuanji was teleported away by a powerful force. In the next second, Zhou Xuanji appeared above the sea of clouds and stood beside Ichiotian. Ichiotian glanced at him and said, from now on, you can only rely on yourself. But don't go to the Fengshan God dynasty to save your companions. There are more than 100 universe heaven cultivators hiding there. If you go, you will die for sure. Save companions? Zhou Xuanji frowned. Who was captured? Ichiotian got up slowly and walked up into the sky without leaving a word. Zhou Xuanji swooped down and was prepared to gather information. Center God Province. Boom! A silhouette descended from the sky and smashed into the grassy plain. The impact caused the grassy plain within a radius of 1,000 miles to collapse, and dust billowed. A silhouette levitated high up in the sky. It was Gu Tianxia. He had already revived. His eyes were blood red, and he no longer looked like he did in the Tianxia map. He wore a tight-fitting black armor with many metal spikes on it, and a cloak that looked like a red flame was hanging by his side. He laughed arrogantly, arrogant and insufferably arrogant. The child of destiny from another realm? Is that all you've got? Gu Tianxia laughed condescendingly. His laughter reverberated across the sky for a long time. The dust settled. In the ruins, a man in black clothes lay among the rubble. He was covered in blood, and his handsome face was covered in dust. His black clothes were tattered, and he looked extremely pathetic. He tried to stand up, but realized that his magic energy had been sucked dry. What evil divine ability did you use? He gritted his teeth and said. Flames of rage burned in his chest. He was the most famous person in the Abyss Pearl mainland, and yet he was suppressed by a nobody in the Center God Province. How could he not be furious? He had already found out who the top cultivators in the Center God Province were, but he had never heard of Gu Tianxia. This is the world Buddha art, created by me. Gu Tianxia laughed proudly. The feeling of being reborn was truly wonderful. Being able to bully the child of destiny from another realm made him feel even better. The man in black clothes stood up with difficulty. He held his chest and thought about how to escape. Outside the Center God Province, in a dark and gloomy forest, Xiandoya and malicious Buddha reunited. Gu Tianxia has been revived. Now, you're in big trouble. Malicious Buddha laughed mockingly. Gu Tianxia was a dazzling genius in the past, and he was even more talented than Mo Jioqing. Xiandoya snorted coldly. He wants to kill me? He's not qualified. There were countless people who wanted to kill him, but who succeeded? In the end, they were all killed by him. The Heavenly Saint's move is really brilliant. Reviving Gu Tianxia to fight against the Abyss Pearl mainland is really brilliant. Gu Tianxia was an incredible existence in his previous life, and it's more than enough to deal with the child of destiny from the Abyss Pearl mainland. Malicious Buddha sighed. He was very curious about how the heavenly saint revived Gu Tianxia. Could the heavenly saint really recreate someone whose soul had been destroyed? Don't bother about this. Hurry up and collect the divine swords. Also, the demonic emperor. Did he suffer from chi deviation? He's been in closed-door training all this time. Xian Daoya said impatiently. Ever since Zhou Xuanji ascended, everything had gone wrong for him, and he could no longer keep his composure. Malicious Buddha shook his head and said, "How would I know what the demonic emperor is thinking? Our relationship is not at the level where we can confide in each other. It's like our relationship." Xian Daoya frowned. No one knew what he was thinking. At this moment, a series of footsteps came from the darkness. The two of them turned around and saw Divine Lord Ji walking over with Su Han. When they saw Divine Lord Ji, Xian Daoya and Xian Daoya's expressions changed. Chapter 509. Yo, Divine Lord Ji, I didn't expect you to come looking for us. How strange. Malicious Buddha sneered, his tone laced with killing intent. He had a conflict with Divine Lord Ji previously. He was already very calm when he saw Divine Lord Ji again and did not attack him immediately. Divine Lord Ji first took a look at the malicious Buddha, then at Xian Daoya, and said, "I need the whereabouts of the holy swords. If you can help me find one, I will owe you a favor." He had asked for the holy sword for Su Han. Su Han was Ji Xian's reincarnation. He was enlightened by Zhou Xuanji and focused on the way of the sword. Xian Daoya glanced at Su Han and said meaningfully, "You two are really fated. In both the past and present lives, this brat was caught." Divine Lord Ji's eyes were calm as he asked, "I'm asking you, can you do it?" Xian Daoya thought for a moment and nodded. The divine sword was useless to him, so he might as well rope in Divine Lord Ji. Xian Daoya flipped his right hand, and a long purple jade appeared in front of him. This piece of jade contains the memory of the map. It records the location of the holy sword. Xian Daoya threw the purple jade to Divine Lord Ji and said with a smile, not afraid that Divine Lord Ji would go back on his words. Divine Lord Ji nodded and said, "If you need anything, look for me. I believe you can find it." With that, he left with Su Han. After they left, Malicious Buddha said, "You should be careful not to invite trouble when you cooperate with the various forces. If the great Emperor Dao court knew about this, they would definitely not let Xian Daoya off." Xian Daoya shrugged and said, "It doesn't matter. Let's take a gamble, or else we'll forever be pawns." The malicious Buddha shook his head and laughed. He did not refute this statement. "Let's go. Before Zhou Xuanji returns, we must nurture a genius who can surpass him." Xian Daoya sighed. Zhou Xuanji was definitely the worst move he had ever made in his life. The malicious Buddha nodded. The two of them turned and walked in another direction. Abyss Pearl Mainland. Zhou Xuanji cultivated in a forest and continued to accumulate celestial energy. He had already inquired about it and knew that the person captured by the Fengxian God dynasty was a noble. He decided to barge into the Fengxian God dynasty. Before that, he had to make sure that the immortal power in the Tianxia map was sufficient so that he could recover quickly after the battle. Marquis had helped him a lot, and if he lost him, it would be even more difficult for Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuwang to win this battle between two worlds. The Abyss Pearl Mainland was so much stronger than the Center God province. The three children of destiny from the Abyss Pearl Mainland must have already been stirring up trouble in the Center God province, and their progress was ahead of them. Every time he thought of this, he felt a sense of urgency. He opened his eyes, leaped up, and flew towards the Fengxian Divine Dynasty. It would take half a day to reach the Fengxian God Dynasty from here. With his speed, half a day's journey was definitely a long one. In the imperial city of the Fengxian God Dynasty, Wang Ho was still suffering. He had given up hope. For the sake of the Center God province, Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wuwang would not come to save him. Even if they came to rescue him, only death awaited them. There were too many experts hiding in this bustling imperial city. Every day, there were many cultivators around the martial arts arena. Most of them had come from afar just to see the people from the other world, as if they were monkeys. No matter how calm Wang Ho was, he couldn't help but feel angry. He did not understand what the Fengxian God dynasty was waiting for. Putting himself in their shoes, how could the Fengxian God dynasty not know that Zhou Xuanji and Great Emperor Wang would not come? So to him, the Fengxian God dynasty was humiliating him. Ta! A handsome man landed on the martial arts arena. He looked elegant and extraordinary, and he held a folding fan in his hand. He walked up to Wang Ho and said in amazement, "What will the heavenly saints of the Center God province think if they see this?" Wang Ho was indifferent. During this period of time, the nobles and officials of the God dynasty often came up to him and teased him. He was already used to it. Since he could not retaliate, there was no need to waste his breath. Tui, the handsome man, suddenly spat on Wang Ho's face and left, laughing loudly. Wang Ho could not wipe off the spit on his face. His eyes were cold, like a lion in a cage. His anger was hidden under his calmness. In the pavilion, Wang Tsang, who was cultivating, opened his eyes and said, "Go and ask His Majesty how much longer we have to wait." He was the first-ranked divine martial marquis of the God dynasty. How could he keep watching over a lowly prisoner? Yes, the deputy general cupped his fist and flew toward the royal palace quickly. Wang Tsang's status in the Fengxian God dynasty was extremely high. It could even be said that he was second only to the emperor. He was also the top cultivator in the Fengxian God dynasty. Universe Heaven Level 12. There was no other person in the entire Fengxian God dynasty. So he dared to send someone to ask the God Emperor directly. After half an hour, the deputy general flew back and reported, "General, His Majesty said to wait for a while more. Please don't be anxious." Having heard that, Wang Tsang frowned. He was displeased. At this moment, another person jumped onto the martial arts arena. Wang Tsang did not mind. It was probably another person who wanted to tease Wang Ho. However, Wang Ho opened his eyes wide. It was Zhou Xuanji. The cultivators of the Center God province were no different from those of the Abyss Pearl mainland. Wang Ho was captured in battle, and Zhou Xuanji entered the city naturally. Who could guess that he was from another world? Zhou Xuanji smiled and said, "You are really pathetic." This was similar to what the person who mocked Wang Ho said earlier. The spectators did not guess that he was Wang Ho's companion. Wang Ho sighed with a complicated look in his eyes. "Are you stupid?" Zhou Xuanji replied, "A little stupid, but I never do things that I'm not confident about." Numerous legendary swords appeared above his head and swiftly slashed at Wang Ho, severing the chains on his body. Wah! The cultivators around the martial arts arena were all shocked and backed off. Numerous figures giving off powerful auras landed on the training ground and surrounded Zhou Xuanji. Zhou Xuanji took out the Nine-Moon Execution Sword, the Wind God Sword, Wolf Ancestor Soul Sword, and Seven Emotions Evil Sword levitated around him. Hundreds of legendary swords shot out and pointed in all directions. Wang Tsang stood before the wooden railing of the pavilion and looked down at Zhou Xuanji. He smiled mockingly. "I didn't expect such a stupid person to exist in the Center God province. How can he be the child of destiny?" His eyes were fixed on the Nine-Moon Execution Sword. Such a beautiful sword. It was definitely a supreme treasure. Greed rose in his heart, and he decided to take the sword for himself. Zhou Xuanji looked at Wang Ho and asked, "Do you have more Wonder Blood Spirit pills?" Wang Ho smiled and said, "Of course. I couldn't escape just now, so I kept them. I didn't expect to use them now." He waved his right hand, and a spatial crack appeared beside him. He took out the Wonder Blood Spirit pills and swallowed them quickly. The powerful cultivators around him did not stop him, but looked at him mockingly. Zhou Xuanji glanced around. There were 27 people in total, and their auras were all more powerful than Wang Ho at his peak. In other words, these people were all at least Universe Heaven Level 5 and above. Zhou Xuanji took a deep breath. His body turned golden and was surrounded by heavenly lightning. A nine-sword purple Tai Chi diagram appeared on his forehead, and his aura grew tremendously. The power of the 9 divine moons flowed into his body. 9 full moons rose behind him, which were incredibly dazzling. At this moment, he was truly a war god. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.